No, I couldn't help but just enjoy the fact that I wake up and I see UnHerd having a picture about Billy Pratt and whatnot, and I thought that it was so perfectly fit
Yeah.
because someone else had sent me a screenshot of Thought Slime doing a video about why Peach Mom is correct,
Oh God,
or
yeah,
what we can learn from Peach Mom, and I was just like,
man.
we're truly at the peak of running out of shit to talk about when it comes when it comes to these issues. Because it's just like no one wants
Oh,
to address the cliff that we're about to run over. I mean, there was that study the other day talking about the effectiveness of SSRIs. The fact that, even the thing that the UnHerd article was talking about, that Billy
yeah.
Pratt, our good friend who wrote, Killed the Party and all that jazz, just like all of that out there
Welcome,
is
welcome to hell.
welcome to hell, all of
Yeah,
that. And
yeah,
the fact that, what is it, over 45 white women are the highest consumers of antidepressants in the United States.
yeah.
And so it's just like we're all dancing around the coming ticking time bomb. And I don't mean this in like the Stefan Molyneux, egg carton meme. I mean it in the very literal, like, we are on the precipice of probably one of the worst cases of mental illness and suicide that I don't think we've seen ever. Like, it's going to
Yeah.
be a contagion, and I'm deeply terrified for the state of how bad things are going to get.
I think no, but I think that first of all, Digital Archipelago episode 9,
8.
8. Yeah, wow,
Yeah,
already 8, eh? Like
I
that's,
know.
and we've had like 2 times where we had breaks, like 2-week breaks. So,
Yeah,
because one because like the I don't know, the technology gods weren't working that one time with Catherine, but
yeah.
yeah,
We
I
had her
think
on though, still nonetheless.
yeah,
But
yeah,
welcome to episode 8, everybody. This is obviously pre-recorded. My girlfriend is coming in on Thursday, the normal time that we're live. So Gio and I are pre-recording
yeah.
because I'm spending Labor Day weekend with her, and I want to make sure that you guys still have content because I was already
Plus,
out
the
last
sounds
week.
wouldn't be appropriate for YouTube. No, never mind. No, 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 no. Listen, Prude is a wholesome chungus. Him and his GF are not that way. Don't worry about it. I joke merely, but
Oh, I mean, she's a nice Christian
wholesome
woman
trad
who's,
girl.
well, she's
Yeah.
just, well, I mean, she's unvaccinated and not on birth control, so I have to lock that shit down as soon
Whoa.
as possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so we're pre-recording it, obviously, and as we
Before
mentioned
some
now,
little prudes will come out,
after the wedding maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Of course, of
uh,
course, of course. But the wedding might be shotgunned a little bit, so
I
we'll
hope
see what
not.
happens.
I hope not. So, anyways, as we were talking
Oh
about
boy.
at the beginning, the idea of the wall coming for the body and soul, as the title is there for you all. And the reason why I thought this would be appropriate is because so many people focus on the sort of basic, lol, egg, no egg sort of meme. But I don't think
Mhm,
that people
mhm.
realize that for a generation, and we talk about millennials a lot on this on this show. Why? Because there's so much attention that has been created for themselves, but there's also been this like astroturf cultural narrative that you are this generation that emerges at the epoch of the new millennia, the
Yeah.
closing of the 20th century, the closing of the last 1,000 years. You are the continuation of the Enlightenment and Renaissance projects of the West. Go forth and be something. And instead, all that I can give you is 2 wars in the Middle East, 2 financial crises, soon to be 3, and good luck at affording a home, to where even the fucking Monopoly man from Hasbro is telling you, don't bother, thinking about owning property. You're going to rent it. So
Yeah.
I think that we're really coming, as more and more millennials hit 40 and over, and the realization of being that sort of, evergreen party situation. I think that it's worth discussing because, oh man, as I just mentioned earlier, like, we're really on the precipice of like the greatest social experiment in Western history coming down in like a flaming wreck, and it's going to be terrifying, not just for like women or anything like that, but I mean also men too, because
Yeah.
in the
Well, I had
past,
something to say about that,
yeah,
but
I was about
yeah.
to say, like, in the past, right? You get a Stephen Sondheim musical called Company, and nowadays it's like, well, what do? You have your friendship simulators, and you have, you know, your emulated games from like your childhood now on your like
Yeah.
$3,500 gaming PC as you talk to your dog. Like it's really a hellscape for both men and women in vastly different ways. And I think that there's a lot that we can talk about there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this podcast is a friendship simulator. So,
Yes.
no, but you mentioned your GF. By the way, speaking of reproduction, congratulations. I know we had our contentions in the past, but you know, he's still somewhat nice to me. Congratulations to Logo Did Atlas and his wife. They are expecting their first child, so congratulations to them.
Oh, congratulations. Many years to them all.
Yep, yep. And I believe they were legally married a few years ago, but then the funny business the last 2 years delayed that. They had a ceremony. So congratulations to Logo. But I mentioned this, and well, you mentioned your GF. I mean, think of it for a second. You mentioned the social experiment. Now, here's the thing: the wall. I know. Listen. You know,
it gets memed to death.
Having done some recent black pilling on the woman question a little bit. I do think that the wall, okay, yes, there is a biological wall, and it's not good in a variety of ways for women to hold off childbirth to later on in life. I mean, even just when you're in your mid-20s, I mean, just in terms of the energy and the spry that you have as a young woman, I mean, it's way better for you having multiple children, you know, to keep up. When you're sort of in your mid-30s, I mean, yeah. But even if you're in your mid-30s, I think that we do sort of like overplay it. Like I know that the Peters out there, they say that if you take progesterone, that a woman could have a child healthily up until her late 30s. I don't know if that's true. That's not health advice. Just you know, that's what the repeat people say. Maybe it's true. Who knows? But I think that the wall is, yeah, it's overplayed to an extent. I think what people mean is sort of the emotional state of women approaching the sort of dawning of their own fertility and meaning in their lives. But the thing people don't know is that there is also a wall for men.
Yes.
It could come later on. But the wall for, I remember a friend described it to me once. It may have been Billy Pratt, actually. The wall for man is the ability to get to a stage in a man's life where they haven't fulfilled their true potential. That's the wall for men, right? Even if you don't have a wife and kids, you can still have, I think, a level of giving to the world that is not frustrated, right? Like, I think that, you know, having, and this really kind of, as people know, people who follow me, this really has been quite weighing on my mind that I'm about to turn 30 in December, you know. So, but they say when a man turns 30 that's their sort of peak years, you know. That's like, you know, maybe I'll end up with the Zoomer top Sadie. Who knows? When I lose about 100 pounds. So hopefully, with the IF and the keto stuff, hopefully I'm on my way to becoming, you know, 90s Tank Abbott style. So that's my goal, 90s Tank Abbott. So
I saw your tweet about intermittent fasting and saw that what you had talked about, how you felt with your experience with it. And I love how Alex Kashuta replied, you know, just sort of like the feeling that people get from like ascetics or those that actually keep to, you know, religious fasting. And it's definitely a very true experience. If you've gone to any service, say during Lent or even during, you know, for the Orthodox, it's like it's Wednesdays and Fridays when we fast. So it's just like there's some intense feeling there. But I'm glad that you're on your weight loss journey here. I mean, I was going through old comments and I saw, like, I think it was episode 1 or 2 of the show, and they were like, "Damn, Gio looks good from like a year ago on Follow the Rules." So like, it's already you're already on a good start there.
Yeah.
So
and as we record it, by the way, just last minute shilling. Speaking of which, yeah, I'm uploading the episode with Gifts Ungiven, my good friend. But you know, YouTube, it takes so long now to like upload a 2-hour video. So it'll be up later on Wednesday, but of course, by the time this was released, it'll be up tomorrow. So check it out if you haven't seen it. But that being said, yeah, so the wall for man is still real. It's later on, of course, right? It's much later on. But I think that even what people mean by the wall for women is fundamentally an affective and emotive, and even I would say spiritual thing. But there is hard limits to a woman's biology. I mean, there's a point where not only is it bad, like not only can they not have children, but it probably is not a good idea for a woman to have their first child in their 40s. Now, there's some evidence to suggest that if a woman has multiple children, that if they have a child later on in life, that's probably all right, you know. But a first child in like first child 35, 40, that's not too good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, a woman, like, yeah, I mean, it's best if they have experience as a mother, like probably in their 20s. Yeah, I mean, but that being said, yeah, so the focus of this is this coming mental health apocalypse. And but it'll express itself differently, though. You mentioned the anhero thing, the sunsetting. Men will definitely sunset in huge numbers. They already are. The opioid crisis, for all intents and purposes, probably is one of them. It's a civilizational sunsetting, because there's always that fine line between when an addict, there's sort of like the nihilism of giving up and not seeing your way through it, and so there's always that ambiguity. I recently have had a friend who was a fellow knight, who had I wrote a public obituary. You could find this. Who had a battle with addiction, and he unfortunately passed away from a fentanyl overdose. This was a few months ago, and but it was ambiguous in terms of whether it was a pure overdose or whether he given up on life. So by any other name, it probably kind of was a sunsetting or an anheroing. So yeah, yeah, by the way, RIP to my friend Jeremiah. He was a very nice guy. Very tragic what happened. But my point being is that men will express their nihilistic despair in those ways. Or well, the other active way of going out, which we can't mention in YouTube, that involves a mass, what. I mean, expect more of those in the future.
But and it's something that, but I mean, there's also like a vast denial of it on social media, which I mean, social media is always, of course, a place where you can selectively choose your best self that you want to put out there. I mean, it's very easy to be fake and gay on the internet. It's why so many people are. But there was this tweet earlier, and I know that everyone talked about it, and I feel the need to bring it up. So this was from a guy named Shane Morris. At G Shane Morris. You can look up the tweet, but I'll read it out for you. I might have it on the thumbnail for this video. But he says, millennials who are very cavalier about not having children are in for a shock when they enter their 40s. Yeah. And they realize their life is only half over. What do you do at that point? Keep trying to be sexy and have fun? I expect to see a lot of sadness and confusion about what to do at that point. He followed up with it. Without the natural connections and belonging that literally emerge from marriage and fertility, the latter years are going to become very cold and lonely. Those friendsgivings will get old quickly. And so when I found this tweet, it was at 11K likes and 11K quote tweets. It was getting.
And what do millennial women do, especially and Black Twitter? They proved them right. That's how they showed them. They proved the coping, seething, the absolute neutron bomb of coping and seething, and the replies. Well, yes, I will be hot up until whenever. I will be a child-free.
I will be the fun aunt. I will be having those friendsgivings forever.
Yeah,
I
deleted a tweet in the reply because I knew that the Chapo Irony Cells probably find it. Because for some reason that's what pisses them off. A fat man talking about sex or reproduction. Look at me, ladies. I mean, I'm available. So, no, but I said telling millennials, not just women, but millennials in general, that perhaps having children would be good for you, your civilization, your sense of purpose in life. That's basically like telling them that they're being sent to a gulag in Siberia, that they, intense physical labor. It's basically, it's I think it goes beyond this, like the aspect of it's, limiting your freedom. Because yes, that is a motivation. But I think there's something deeply wrong in terms of the sort of like big picture Kali Yuga, total nihilistic despair, like that the millennials are at the forefront of, and the fact that we are being passed by the Zoomers culturally and politically, we're being slowly erased. I think that the millennials, for some reason, they embraced the snarky Jon Stewart nihilism of like, well, you don't have to have kids, man. They can reproduce. That's bad. And there's something about it that really, like, watch as they recoil how injurious they are, as to say I've been found out. Don't look up the source of that quote. But but you know what I mean? Like, there's something deep, I feel, with and I hate to say it, there's always like the TikTokers, Stan Twitter, Black Twitter. For some reason, Black Twitter's embraced stylism full force in terms of, not to say that, I'm not making a racial commentary. I'm just saying that I notice a lot of Black, like my friend who is a writer for Evie Magazine, a teen alien on Twitter. She had that tweet about the high body count TikTok woman, and the Stan Twitter, K-pop Twitter, Black Twitter, they all tried to ratio her. And I think one of these hideous blue checks that has, podcasts talking about nothing managed to ratio her about, why are you concerned about that? That's weird. Go touch grass, man. That's weird. Why are you concerned about that? I mean, it's not just women though. Like, does a woman, like, I know, yes, it's true that for men it's probably not as bad, but like, for the sake of argument, I don't think a woman wants a man who's slept with. I mean, maybe they do actually, but I mean,
Well,
no, but in terms of having a family with a man
Uh-huh.
that sleeps with hundreds of women, that's probably not good. But doubly so. Every man, don't lie to yourself. As a man, deep down inside, do you really want to know, or do you want to be with a woman who has slept with, I believe her count on the TikTok video
It was like 147.
150 to 147.
Yeah.
Do you want to be with that woman? Right? And I know that, men marry porn stars or whatever, but like,
I mean,
still,
plenty of people can turn, as they say, a hoe into a housewife. But I mean, the inverse problem for men, though, is also slowly coming out of the woodwork, because it's not. Yes, there is a percentage of men who are PUAs and are very successful at applying sales psychology to get women into bed,
and that gets pathetic after a while too.
And I mean, there's some emptiness to it. I mean, otherwise there wouldn't be some PUAs that kind of like drop what they're doing and become something else. But at the same time, what's the other issue that a lot of men these days have the problem with? It's not that it's sleeping around, or it's porn addiction. I mean, like, the one film that covered on it in the most blatant realism is like almost 10 years old at this point. Don Juan with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and I think it was like Lady Gaga, or no, Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, there was that film Shameless with who was the guy that played Young? Oh God, what's his name? Fassbender. There's that film
Michael
Shameless.
Fassbender. I have not seen that one. But yeah, I mean, that issue's coming out, and I saw some of my like friends spat over this tweet. It was also out there about like a woman breaking off her relationship or her fiance, like they were engagement, because he had hidden the fact that he had a porn addiction to her. And I'm like, and to me, that's a very relevant thing, because if you're addicted to that, your brain's rewired. I mean, you're affecting your physical health as much as that. And there was another tweet about that too, where a guy was showing 2 pictures of his face, before and after, one with porn addiction and then one 4 years clean of it. And he looked like a totally different, I mean, he's the same guy, but his facial structure, his jawline was far more defined. He looked like an actual guy. He wasn't very soft around the edges. And to me, like, he
didn't look like a New York podcast.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, he didn't look like something out of Chapo Trap House. And like, and so all the quote tweets was very telling. And I think our friend Martin had pointed it out, where it was a collection of quote tweets of people being like, me with 4 years of porn addiction, and I'm the most beautiful woman ever, when the before photo is them as a man. And it's just like, well, gee, doesn't that tell us? Doesn't that tell us?
Blanchard, 100% vindicated.
Doesn't that tell us where we're at?
But here's the thing, though. Okay, now, I said this to, actually, I believe I said this to a friend of mine woman friend. Not a girl, not a GF, but like a friend who is a woman. I said, like, the problem is that when it comes to like my beliefs, people think that I'm a wholesome Chungus, simp, woman respecter.
Yeah, you tweeted that out.
And there's a
I,
part of me that is, but I think that there was this tweet that I retweeted. Was it from Enzo or was it from someone else? Another prolific woman hater like Zero HP Lovecraft. And I also retweeted part of the thread he did from 2018, the infamous one, the famous one about this civilizational life vest that women have. Now, I think that it is true that society has failed because men have largely failed, and we let it get this bad, and we let ourselves become subverted by various forces. And I think that while that is true, I do notice a lot of trad women are kind of like 10 times harsher than even like the most virulent third waver in terms of like the standards that they hold of men in a fallen world. I believe that was what the tweet was that I retweeted. That
yeah.
like it's almost impossible to expect. And I believe it was quote tweeting that tweet you saw from the woman divorcing her husband, or not divorcing, like breaking off the marriage, because in a way it's true. You really can't expect men to rise above it in a profoundly fallen world. But that's the problem though, because that also enables inaction. It is
Well,
good to
yeah.
kick your porn addiction, obviously. But I think that, especially I noticed a certain type of trad woman, certain account actually, this one, nah, never mind. I can name names. But you've probably seen her around in terms of when you say trad LARP woman, the big
Oh, yeah.
account.
I can
Yeah.
think of a few, but
Yeah. Like, yeah, you can think of a few, right? But like the point is that I noticed that their acridity and their harshness towards it, it's kind of like yeah, like you really, in a way, it's like unfair in a sense. And I know I'm just saying this because I'm a man. In fact, it's funny because today before on air, I was reading this quote that Landshark posted from Evola
I love
about how
Landshark
men,
tweets.
yeah, about like men, how they're superficially cruel on the exterior, but inside they have this capacity for emotion. Whereas women are superficially emotional in the exterior, but like inside, a lot of them have this supreme like directness and cruelty that is unmatched by men. So-
Well, I think that exhibits itself a lot
yeah,
when
they
there are
truly are the real Machiavellians when you think
well,
about
I mean,
it.
Machiavellian femininity is very real, and
Yeah,
anyone who tells you
yeah,
otherwise is lying to you. But there's a reason why some of like the cruelest villains in media are women.
yeah.
Like, there's a reason why that um, what was it, like the I Care So Much thing or whatever, that video movie on Netflix with about like nursing homes and the scam that they were running. Like, it's just
Oh
fucking,
yeah.
yeah, fucking evil.
Oh
But
man.
there's
That's
a
total
reason.
evil maxing. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a reason why I think there's a lot of those memes, and we've talked about it before about like how men have two sides. They want to die
Right.
gloriously in battle on the outside, but deep down they want to be, held by their woman or whatever.
They
It's
want
all,
mom. Like this is
yeah,
like a cruder set.
they want the
But
mother,
inside,
right?
every man wants mommy. Like the
They,
way he said it, like, oh man, it's true. It's true. I had a
um,
discussion like this recently with the same woman friend where it's like, every man does want mommy, but every man does have two sides. Every man, um, and I think when women see that other side, it's like that's a really good test if like they're into you, if they do see like that more negative or black pilled or like emotionally vulnerable side of you, or if that's an immediate turn off, then
and they
like
cut you to fucking shreds. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
But no, there was a point that you had mentioned earlier that had came to my mind because like men live in a fallen world, or like men have allowed themselves to be subverted by looking at the other things. And
yeah,
I know that I'm going to get a lot of shit for this, but this is something that's been on my mind for a while. Is that we do make the meme all the time of women most affected, and I
yeah,
think as a mimetic tool, all that does is divert all attention from all the problems that men in current year have. to a point where, by ignoring all of these problems that men in current year have, the issues that we say women most affected by, yes, there's obviously narcissism in a lot of those posts, but
Yeah.
at the same time, like, I won't ever deny that women can be very narcissistic, especially when they do sort of the memeable women most affected things. But when we
Yeah.
say that to ourselves as women most affected, we are obviously obfuscating our own internal problems, and because we leave them to the side, they fester, they get worse, and it enables the cycle to where, again, you'll see another tweet or another article or another blog where it says women most affected. And the women will try and focus it on themselves because, I mean, they're obviously just as getting as screwed as well. But I mean, we mimetically, I think,
Yeah.
provide some sort of
Mhm.
narrative cope that, hey, things with men are all right, when we clearly know that there are. I just think that there needs to be more of a frank discussion about those things because, yeah, like, men these days have their own problems. I mean, polyester, apparently, endocrine disruption, everything that
Mhm.
we talk about in these sort of spheres. On top of the fact, you've got, porn. Society has inverted the sexes to where more women are going to college than ever. There was an article that said Black women are the most educated, like, demographic group in the United States.
But
And
are they? No, no,
uh,
no, I'm not gonna say anything. No, 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 no. In terms of numeric, yeah, yeah,
in
yeah,
terms
of
of
course.
numerics, I'm not reflecting the quality or the aspect of what that education entails. You can draw your own conclusions with the data
Oh
available.
man.
But that, and women are making more money than men. Everything is focused on women, and by extension now, all the other aspects of diversity, equity, and inclusion, or inclusion and equity, die, because that's what they are telling you to do. Essentially, is to die, and this is why it is a distinct. And I know that it affects other people, for instance, but there was this thing that I had noticed as well, that a lot of, like, SoundCloud sad boy rappers, it's not black
Mm,
guys, it's not Hispanics, it's white men. And then we kind of are watching this despondency through opioids, pornography, the entire system being rigged against them in the name, again, of equality, to destroy them, to, in a similar extent, where, like, white dudes are going through the same style of cultural genocide as, like, black guys did from the Great Society. And
right,
so
right.
you want to talk about state sanctioned genocide, like, you're kind of watching it right before your eyes. And it's going to require, in a lot of ways, I think, a very feral response in the coming years, especially as millennials uh, push over 40 and realize that there's now the rest of their lives to deal with. And that, evergreen moment of youth is not evergreen. It is very much deciduous,
Right,
and you're now
right.
in fall.
Yeah, I mean, G word. I mean, that is a strong term. But I think that it happens in a variety of ways. I mean, if you really want to stretch, which is actually funny, the people that say that passive like genocide is like a terrible term are the same people that talk about the cultural one to other groups though, but not to
Yeah.
us, right? So it's like if you've expanded the definition to such an extent that what we're seeing before our eyes is maybe not, I know I'll get heat from the white nats, but if it's not, then it's certainly mass cultural, political, even physical erasure of the what is historically, at least in I try to avoid the word Western civilization. Let's call it European civilization, to which America is an extension of North America and Canada. Well, Canada even more so, in terms of like the British,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, well, British and French, yeah. But let's say that the backbone of the historic stock that generated most of not just the functioning but the creation of aspects both culturally, politically, scientifically, um, anything really, has been largely the European young man, right? I mean,
Yeah.
not youngish, not totally young, but because America has a very complicated relationship with the worship of adolescence, which we can get to,
Oh yeah.
um, as opposed to Europe. But let's say that the driving force of civilization is now being decimated and being erased because we sort of, in a way, we've sort of turnkeyed our way into advanced technocracy to the point where the technocracy thinks it doesn't need largely European men, and I don't think that model. Again, this is why I criticized Spandrel once, that the model of bio-Leninism can only work for so long. It can only work. I mean, until there is a perfection of that technocratic society model, I don't think can happen. Actually, you still need, as Deleuze would say, the war machine. The state still has to appropriate the war machine. That sort of source of nomadological creativity. And when you don't have that, or when that force has become so bombarded chemically, physically, spiritually, culturally with their own demise, with their own erasure, then that society very quickly will run up into. I don't think you could girl boss your way out of civilizational decline. I don't think that can happen.
Yeah, I mean, that sort of technocratic aspect of it too. I mean, you can look no further than South Korea, the most foreign sort of anti-Western cult. I don't want to say anti, but it's non-Western. And the average age of marriage is now into their 30s, and that they're witnessing, passive depopulation by simply
South Korea, you mean?
Yeah, South Korea. Excuse me. I don't know if I said North. I apologize, but yeah, South Korea is the example to look toward.
Yeah, North Korea, they have their own problems.
They have their own problems, right? But I mean, South Korea is what I meant. But I mean, here in the thing though about Spandrel, because I did a video about bio-Leninism and intersectionality very early in the channel. I'm going to say,
I think I saw that one.
Yeah, 2021. Yeah, and one of the things, because I came to the same conclusion, was just like, well, how does this keep going? And my thought process is that it either goes two ways. One, you keep the cycle perpetuating and going over and over again by, just endless immigration. Eventually that'll come to a halt, but it'll be prolonged, kick the can down the road. Or you start taking a look at intertribal grievances or inter-minority grievances in the same way that you've got multiracial whiteness is a thing. That will eventually come. But I mean, for right now, the model still works to a point where, even though it's primarily, African Americans beating the crap out of Asians in New York City, you can still blame, whitey for your problems. But I mean, it's kind of funny when there's some subtle honesty coming from the regime, like when Biden took, he had meetings with black leaders when he took office, and he was just basically explaining to them, like, hey, we're not going to be the majority forever. Like, this model's not going to work forever. You're going to have to learn how to get along with everybody else, because heaven forbid there is a president, Pedro Gonzalez or something like that. They're not going to have the burden of white guilt, like, that you've been, latched the system onto for the last 160 years almost. So
imagine like a true nativist, but he happens to be a Hispanic Austrian painter fan. That running America. They don't.
It's like the downfall meme. It's like, sir, there are Hispanics praising you on Twitter.
Yeah. Imp Americans shared that one. It went viral. No, it's funny because that was the post I remember seeing on 4chan about I think it was like the 20th anniversary of the LA riots. And they're like, Chan bros, how did they manage to do it? How did they manage not to seek backlash? The rooftop Koreans. And they're like, and just like simply responded, lack of white guilt. Like that's like the Koreans shooting caps off at blacks in the middle of LA. They didn't give a fuck. They did not, give a shit. Like, but yeah, no, I think that it's funny though when you say that, because it almost reminds me, not that these two men are in any way comparable, even in terms of competency. But it almost reminds me of what was his name that ran Rhodesia, Ian Smith. That was the deal that he wanted to do. He said, listen, Anglo-Americans, let's cool it for a little bit with the anti-racism thing. Give me some time. Let me sort things out. Let me sort of like create a largely black leadership class, a technocratic. I think that was his plan. He wanted to basically educate a ruling class within Rhodesia. And he's like, well, the white people will like passively, go aside if it's too intolerable for you. And of course they didn't, the regime could not tolerate that. That's far too pragmatic. Not to say I'm pro Rhodesia, okay, or pro apart. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that Biden saying to African American leaders in the States, listen, what's his thing, Jack, or what does he
Yeah,
say?
listen, Jack, Whitey's not going to be here forever, and so you
Yeah.
need to learn how to get along with other
So you
groups.
got to get along with them, okay? Like it's, that's hilarious. Actually, that's like a lib version of Rhodesia right there. Oh my god.
With the same projected results coming our way.
Exactly. Yeah, the South Africanization of America. No, but I think that it is that is pretty crazy. But more so, I think that, I mean, even like the black young man has their own, like, I think, level of decimation
Oh
that
yeah.
we don't talk about. But I think from our perspective, definitely they have been on as much as they've been on the cultural ascent. I would caution and say that the black young man has also been experienced of a sort of culture, not a cultural eraser so much as a cultural distortion. I mean, they've been sort of tried to, they've been the regime has tried to break them in certain ways, if you know what I mean.
Well, yeah, and not to
Treating
say.
Nasheed's unironically right in certain
Well, I wrote that
respects.
yesterday or the other day with the response to Pedro. It was just
Yeah.
like something that Tariq Nasheed of all people is right about.
Yeah.
That it really is a fight after virility. Because like,
Right.
well, if you can make anyone come out as gay or wear a dress or whatever, it doesn't matter at that point. Because like
Mhm.
once you can put them through a very public humiliation ritual, or even worse, brainwash them into thinking that that's
Right.
true,
Right.
the idea of marriage or parenthood, fatherhood, none of that can get thrown out the window. Because look at you now, you've got all the immediate euphoria of being the objectified individual, the man in the dress. The emperor doesn't have. It's not that the emperor doesn't have any clothes. It's that the emperor is wearing a girdle and is wearing, fishnet stockings, and is now being assigned to take care of America's nuclear waste. I mean, that's where we're at now. And
God, yeah,
it's true. Bright red lipstick, bald head, very bushy mustache, just a peak American regime right there. That's Biden's government working for you, ladies and gentlemen. And I can't even say Biden's government because he's not in charge of anything. But I mean, it does bring us to the point, though, is how long can you keep that self narrative, that BS where everything is about this one issue? Like, I mean, we talk about this with identity and fandom culture all the time, and Default Friend is very good about pointing this out. How long can you keep that shit up? How long can you tell a lie to yourself before at the end of the day, right? And this is what I talk to people about, like being online all the time. Do you want to go to bed at the end of the day, turn the phone off, and look at the black reflection in your screen and just think, oh, fuck, like I look like garbage, I'm sad, I'm depressed and lonely? And I mean, that's the problem I think that irony also has for millennials, that the Zoomers have inherited, to where Zoomers can joke about being so depressed that they want to take Pikachu by the arms and say, cast Thunderbolt while sitting in a bathtub. That people older, myself and older, are like, dude, are you okay? And they're like, yeah, I just thought it was funny. When clearly they're not.
Look at us. I mean,
and I mean, yeah, we're no better.
Many
right?
of those nights, actually,
Which is why I try to focus so much. Like and it's the same thing that when Academic Agent had, James Kirkpatrick on, it was just like, you need to have a friend group that isn't explicitly around a political identity. You need to have a tribe or a network that isn't just, we're going to do our own thing politically. Like, if you don't have things that you can do that aren't politics 24/7, it's going to go downhill very quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested to see where this comes in the coming years, because this great social experiment of like everything's about stands or fandoms or identities or girl bossing, leaning in, shopping, retail therapy, etc., whatever. Can you keep that up forever? Can you still do that into your 80s as a, middle class 60-year-old Taylor Lorenz? Is she still going to tweet about her $22 avocado toast? Is she though? Like, these are legit questions. And the funny thing about Taylor Lorenz and all those other journo class women is that I don't know what they're fucking age is. I don't. It's purposefully hidden. In the same way that the Nina Jankowicz's age was purposefully hidden. And doesn't everyone think that it's a little terrifying that I don't know how old this person is? And the fact that she runs in a very public position, or she did in government and still does to some extent.
Wasn't she like 39 or no? She was 29? Or...
Well, that's what Libs of TikTok had said in a quote tweet against Nina Jankowicz on Twitter while Libs of TikTok was still on it.
That's terrifying that she actually has a man, though. That's because you'd figure, like, you know,
well, yeah,
she says that
she says that she does have a man, but no children. So I mean.
Yeah, she probably never have. Same with AOC, will probably never have children. Right?
Well, I mean, and that's the other thing too is that how long can you keep that? And that relationship thing has to keep going on. I do think again based upon pharmaceutical assistance, because there's women comedians, but there are like women stand-up acts where they'll talk about birth control or whatever, and they're like, well, how did you feel when you get off of it? And one of the first I saw this on a clip somewhere on Twitter and or YouTube, I can't remember, but she was asking women like, what was your reactions to when you got off the pill? And one of them was just like, I dumped my boyfriend of 6 years. And it's just like, and I mean, like there are effects that hormonal birth control has on women that alters their neurochemistry forever. Yeah, and that's the thing about like the whole recent Dobbs ruling is it's like the real answer to Dobbs, when I see a lot of like pro-choice activists go, well, actually the rate of this terrible murderous procedure is actually going down, and it's like, yes, because it was more profitable to alter and destroy your neurochemistry for like 40 years than it ever was a just one time kill a child type deal.
Yeah, even to harvest the organs is not that profitable compared to what the pharmaceutical
compared to what
although they still do that, they're still evil maxed in that.
Oh yeah, that's not going away. In the same way that it's more profitable for individuals to be on a lengthy trail of hormones or other procedures to transition than it would be to fix these issues. And so to me, I'm just curious, like you kind of have to keep that lie going by drugs to take it, and so like, cause there was that Alex Bernstein or whatever, Barron's, I don't remember how his last name goes, but like he did that whole cat calling AOC at the
Sam Stein,
one of the two.
It was Sam Stein,
Alex Stein 99 on Twitter or something like that. He's the one that posted the video, and but he, did the whole cat calling the big booty Latina thing, which is
big juicy booty,
something like that. And she's with her; they're engaged, right? Her boyfriend are engaged, and her fiance.
I was gonna say that
hurries away.
Yeah,
like that. That's
okay,
not
I'm not saying like act like a gorilla, right? Like, but still, as a man, and he's like AOC's. Well, he's kind of like a soy new male, but he's like 6 foot tall, like he's
imposing.
If you saw this like lanky little comedian like saying to your GF or your fiance, like even worse, fiance, like, big juicy Latina booty, like you don't have to like act like a total like like a psychotic, like like a total psycho, but still you'd go up to him and be like, hey bro, like come on man, cool down. And if you continue to do it, then you would get into his face and you'd, but
I mean, he could have been a hero right then and there, walked up to him, clocked him in the face and walked off. And you would have probably had a lot of like, manosphere Twitter probably cheering him on for doing what
they post
right?
The blonde Castiza Hyperborean edits of AOC.
But instead what happened, right? He scurried off. And AOC has to go to Instagram to ask other people, well, what can men do in that situation? Because there is no progressive role model for white men. There isn't
exactly.
Because you either go two ways: gay, transition, identify something that isn't, dare I say, normal. I think
I'm trying to find this one Twitter account I wanted to shout out.
Yeah, go for it.
Where is it? Is it Lizard or is it?
Even though we're recording, it's still very much a live show.
He does the thread where he compares politicians to cars. Did you see that?
No, I haven't. But it reminds me of Frog Butt's physiognomy check of the governors and senators.
Yeah, but it's like female politicians compared to cars. And he did one today for Chrystia Freeland. Let's look it up here.
Did he do
I
one for
read
Did he do one
Here
for
it is. Yeah,
AOC?
Squid Ink Nationalist. Go to MD 2020. Is that? Yeah, MD 2020 BOGO free. Just type Squid Ink Nationalist. Go to his Twitter, and he has this whole thread where he compares female politicians to cars. Let me find the AOC one. The AOC one. Where is it? Here it is. Here it is. AOC is a Tesla 3. The current IT car makes a play with an entry model that signals your social concern and status simultaneously. Minimalist interior, battery life prohibits travel outside of urban areas. Grab an IPA with your buds while charging at Whole Foods. AOC is a Tesla 3. My favorite one, though, I think one of my favorites is Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard as a Toyota 4Runner. It's not flashy, but with a 4-wheel drive can take you and your 4 buddies mudding all weekend long. Plenty of rear passenger space makes up for a small cup holder. Little nicks and dents on the grill are a sign of character. And this is what our good friend, my man, JJ the Jackoff Plane, this is what he said about the Tulsi Gabbard one. He said, where is it? He said that Tulsi Gabbard is basically like a I have to look this up. JJ
Oh
the
God.
Jackoff Plane. It's amazing. It's amazing.
He is probably one of the best and, dare I say, the horniest
Yeah. Where
people on
is it?
Twitter, but he can ratio anyone from the New York Times almost instantly, which makes him just...
Yeah, it's funny because you posted that, but White
Did
Dog.
what? Oh, damn! I didn't know.
Yeah,
Shit.
he said it on Content Minded. He said that it's funny that in this day and age on Twitter that like a guy with like you can take it like any intellectual or writer for the New Yorker, not the New York Times,
Okay.
and basically get ratioed by or like they could basically intellectually be upended by someone named JJ the Jackoff Plane. So
Well, I mean, he's definitely one of the best.
wait, I'm looking it up, but he said that Tulsi Gabbard's body is manufactured for reliable industrial grade fucking.
Well,
Oh my god. Well, it's true. I mean, she's got the nice fit tone, mommy look to her. I mean, she doesn't have kids, but like, she's got that. That fit boss. She probably takes a lot of miles. Put it that way. Anyways.
keep digging that hole, buddy.
Yeah, listen, I would go for that, but I'm much more of a thick girl. I'm much more of a Renault fault pill, I'm much more.
Oh, I know, because I had tweeted that smother the patriarchy thing with that Abercrombie and Fitch model, and you were like, yeah, let her, and she's morbidly obese, but you were just like, let her lose 50 to 60 pounds, and it's like 100% wood.
Yeah, and then CHP is like, Gio, she must lose 200 pounds. Oh, that was. But
even, I mean, there are.
Favorite reply was, you take one Renault fall pill. You don't take the whole bottle.
Yeah, don't take the whole bottle. But I mean,
but anyways, what were we talking about?
The thing about like even this whole exchange just now, right? Yeah. Like,
listen, AOC doesn't even look that good to me, in my opinion. I don't know. She is a Latina 5, okay?
I mean, if my position on AOC is that once you've seen her, you've seen half of like any major Hispanic town or part there. She's a dime a dozen, and I'm not being facetious there. I lived in El Paso for years. There's like 5 facial archetypes that are just, once you ID them, you're like, oh shit, they're everywhere.
You go to an El Paso bar on a Saturday night, and you'd probably get a better version of AOC. Probably.
Oh, any day of the week. Any day of the week. But I mean, even this conversation right here, like there's always the perverse or randy old man type deal that can be memed to death. I mean, otherwise it wouldn't happen. Yeah. But like, I mean, that I think is just natural with men. Like even there are times where even like my grandfather, who is like in his like late 60s, early 70s, and he's like my step grandfather, but like even then he can get like caught because it's like, well, your Netflix all algorithm shows what you look up, and he's just like, well, I don't know how that got there, and it's like, dude, you're clearly looking for like soft
This is
core.
how Fox News survives, by the way, with their haters.
Well, yeah, with like the, what is it, like the still decent looking late 30s
Yeah,
blonde
the
with
cinema look.
Yeah.
What's her name? Her first name, because we had a big discussion in the group chat about that with Squid Ink.
with Kristen Cinema
Kristen Cinema. There you go.
from
Like,
Arizona.
yeah, like whether she looks like she's kind of like, you know, the hotter older wife that probably cheats on you, but she keeps it on the DL. You know, like, and you'd probably like, you know, maybe once or twice when
she's the Mrs. Robinson of the U.S. Senate.
Yeah. Maybe like when you're drunk at like a cottage party with you and your best friend, you probably never mind. You know, she's like that type, you know, but like she says she's bi, but all those girls say they're bi, you know, like that's just to like add a little excitement there, you know, like I don't think, you know what I mean? Like she probably like contemplate like, oh, you know, her bestie, maybe me and her, like, you know, yeah, she's got that vibe to her, you know, typical like kind of slutty Midwestern, you know, hot wife deal going on. I don't know, but I've known a few like that in my
Ladies
time.
and gentlemen, this is half of what goes on right-wing Twitter.
Yeah, and the DMs is what goes on.
Yeah, this is what happens behind the scenes.
No, Cinema looks like you'd like she looks pretty good. She looks like you'd probably give her a fourth child, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Anyways, go. What were you gonna say? A more intellectual point? Oh man, but she cheat on you behind your back. Don't worry about it. So.
Oh yeah, and she'll give you the thumbs down when she denies it, just like she voted down in the U.S. Senate. But
that was amazing. They all like blew their cap on her. They said that she was a subversive, secret like Sarah Palin, right? Yeah. Then that creepy thing with Mitt Romney, that was.
Oh, giving her cookies or whatever, and he was on her knees, and he had like a weird cardigan. Oh God, I'm dressed like Mitt Romney, but I mean, it's just very weird.
Very.
And I wonder, is his secret alt still active? That Pierre Delecto thing that he got caught for a few years back.
Yeah, he probably has another one. I probably think they all probably do.
They all do. They all have to have alts. I would love to, you know,
find the Tucker alt.
I want to find the Ted Cruz alt just so I can, you know, ratio him. That's the, you know.
He'd probably be like, was it Ted Cruz that was speaking of American MILFs, was it Ted Cruz that was following Corey Chase?
I have no idea. I don't want to know.
I think, yeah. I know, you know, it's funny. I know that Kyle Rittenhouse.
That explains, you know, why TPUSA is moving the direction that it is, though, when it comes to inviting, you know, pornographic actors. Yeah, who they invite. And it was such a weird reaction, that whole little flash in the pan moment with whatever her name is, Brandy Love or whatever.
Oh, yeah, the Brandy Love thing. Yeah.
I did a whole video on that like a year ago. But like,
did you talk about how she did the fake Zest stuff? Did you talk about that?
No, I just talked about the fact that, like, look at my like right-wing conservative institutions, dog. Like, we're so fucked.
Yeah, she does a lot of the mommy role playing in her work, so
that doesn't. Well, of course, then bring her, of course, to a bunch of impressionable young high school seniors and college age.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's the winning GOP plan right there, to get MILF porn stars to talk to horny young men. That will invigorate the Fourth Reich in America. You're gonna have to edit that one out.
God damn it, Gio. I wonder if I can.
Yeah, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 5 in America. That's right.
Yeah, there. Just it'll be like Huey Long meets Delicious Tacos. Every man a MILF.
Francis Parker Yockey, he was a handsome guy. Yockey, you know, he was pretty. He was a ladies' man. Did you know that? Yeah.
No. I feel like you're setting me up for a Norm Macdonald bit here. He's a ladies' man, you know, right?
Because all the Austrian painters get all the women. Like, that could be a Norm Macdonald. But what are we saying? What are we saying? I'm almost.
I don't know.
almost
We've wandered
to the
off.
end of my daily fast. That's why
We've
I have so
wandered
much
off
energy.
into the territory of
No,
Goodwill Smith.
porn. Okay, yeah. So, no, I think that there is. We wanted to talk about the millennial thing. I was reading in the links to that UnHerd article we wanted to cover about like having a mommy GF and how like you know, older women, now that they've been given the reign of society, rather the aging millennial woman, that they're gonna have to pretend to be the mommy GF. That's sort of like sort of quote unquote complicating the dating space or whatever. Like, I was reading this article. UnHerd, you know, they're kind of a mixed bag. They do publish, you know, some kind of sussy baka stuff, you know. But I know American Mind got into heat for publishing that one feminist, right? Who followed me on Twitter. I don't know. So I can't be too mean to someone that follows me on Twitter. But you know, I know that. Yeah, I know. I know. Hey, that's kind of a stupid measure. But no, I think that
you can't be mean to like some almost 20,000 people that.
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah.
Niche
23,000 people.
Oh, well, there you go.
Me. Yeah. No, but I think what an asshole thing to do. Like 23,000 actually. But no, but I think that it's I was reading this article, but I was reading the one we wanted to cover. And I think that I said this, you know, it's a hard lesson because listen, it's true what Crooner says, right? Men want mommy, right? We want mommy Lana, right? Like, give me, you know. But I think that as a man, though, you know, it's more acceptable for a woman to want daddy in some ways, right? Because as a man, I think the problem is that those type of relationships, and now that we're seeing this push for the eroticization of the older woman, that even the conservatives, Brandy Love is, you know, fiscal conservative, whatever, right? You know, apparently she is married too, but again, being married to a porn star is kind of weird. But yeah. But the thing is, though, is that there's no growth. I said this on Twitter. There's no growth in those relationships as a man. Because as a man, not only are you enabled by an older woman who is essentially using you to replace her, you know, maternal, the crone stage of development, her maternal instinct. Yeah. Not only is she using you for that, but as a man, you know that genetically and to an extent, you know, in other areas, there really is no growth to that relationship. You're not going to be a father. You're not going to lead your own household. And as a man, you have to sort of reconcile that very instinctual, id-driven, archetypal thing of like, you know, you want to find mama, right? Like, I mean, I come from the you know, the people of mama's boys, right? Us Italians, especially us Southern Italians. But I think that as a man, you have to transcend that. You have to like overcome your own need of like wanting an enabler, right? Like everyone wants that, right? Like me, I fully admit this. Be amazing to have a mommy GF. But
as if the last 30 minutes didn't just
confirm it, right? You know.
But this is why I think in this conversation, to maybe get us back on some kind of rail tracks here, is the fact that this great social experiment that is going to come screeching to a halt, like the ramifications won't just stop with the millennials. Like we know this, right? No. I mean, you just talked about this whole crone developing maternal relationships, older women wanting to have someone to take care of them.
Yeah.
Because like pets don't live as long as people. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Like it's I dread the day that when like my childhood dog my dog that we got growing up and when I was in high school dies, like he's 10 years old. Like I hope we get more time with him, but it's just like, I dread the day when that happens. Right. But like for women and men who aren't married, that build their whole lives around like only in the Western, or, you know, with like the European, especially like North American world, only there can women call dogs their children or be a fur baby or a dog mom or a dog dad or whatever. And it's just like, well, they die, you know, like at a much faster rate than people do regularly. I'd hate to see what happens when, you know, someone's, you know, cat passes away or the dog, because that'll cause a crisis But like in the same way, like my grandmother, to the same grandfather I was talking about, she's much older than him. Like I said, he's my step grandfather, and for a lot of us, think, oh well, she just wanted someone around the house to take care of, and to some extent, that's definitely true. Because she's getting up in her years, and she still like talks to him like a very angry mother about taking out the trash or things like that, and it's just like
since I mean, as a man, that's kind of degrading after a while.
well, yeah, oh, definitely, right, and that's something that I think we're gonna see. I think with this millennial thing, especially when they get childless and get older, because who is going to be the prime target of fresh meat to deal with? It's going to be Zoomers, and it's going to be whatever Gen Alpha or whatever weird name we come from them. The post-national generation. The beige or generation, or just like whatever you want to call them. Like that's all coming, right? And what makes matters worse is that all the problems and ticks and pharmaceutical and endocrine disrupting things that like millennials are coming of age with and are getting older and know about and are dealing with very real consequences of, Zoomers are getting hit with that full force. Like I was seeing this like compilation of videos the other day talking about like young Zoomer men of all races just being like, why am I Norwooding at 17?
Oh
like,
my God.
And it was like, why is my hairline receding? Like, why am I going bald?
5. Yeah.
It's at 18, 19, and 17, like, very young ages. And I was just like, well, fuck, that's really strange,
that's full on genetic damage right there.
And so it's things like that happen and turn to, and things progressively get worse. I do, like I've mentioned before on your Content Minded, but also on the show, like I really do think we're heading towards like this, like people talk about like the great filter. I think we're in the great bottleneck. Like the great filter isn't, it might be a meme, as Alex Kashuta says, but like the fact that we're in this like civilizationally self-imposed genetic bottleneck is very real. Right. I mean, that's definitely coming. And so, where would these people go to? Well, the maternal 40, 55-year-old millennial crone that wants to have someone to take care of them.
Yeah. But then what are men going to do in that? Are we going to go back to, because I think like a lot of us men, like, in our like late 20s, early 30s, I think it's more common, sort of the situation I'm in, it's more common to like have delayed success with certain things. And inevitably, I mean, we always tend to go to younger women. Not that I would want to, but that's just the reality of it. Like if I want to marry someone who can have children one day, I'm going to have to marry someone younger than me.
Yeah. And right? I mean, is it really bad?
I'm not complaining. I do like older women, but I'm not complaining.
Okay. But Lord Jesus Christ, forgive me for referencing this television show, but at I think it's like the last season of BoJack Horseman, and I am referencing the show because I watched it all in full, and I have some essays written about it. I should probably like publish one of these days. But like,
the Catwoman.
No.
Is that the monologue?
Hers a whole other. No, that's a whole other thing. I was actually going to refer to the guy that Paul F. Tompkins plays, the Labrador, and he's dating this like woman pug thing or whatever. It's like 20, 30 years younger than him.
Holy.
And she's on her phone. She's doing all the social media stuff, and he can't keep up with it. Right. They're like, yeah, this party's 20 years old. And she's like, oh, that's when I was born or whatever. And he's getting like really uncomfortable with it, or like realizing he can't keep up with it. And he wants to like cheat and do all these other things. And it's just like, I wonder if that might happen, right? Where like older men get into these relationships with younger women. And it's just like, well, how do you keep up with all that? Because unless you do enter a more, say, traditional or slowed down non-social media kind of lifestyle, no clubbing out, no what we would associate with like the sort of millennial insanity or teenage apocalypse, as we've once talked about on here. Like unless you don't engage in that, like how do you keep up? These are, and there, I think you're right that men will see a lot of delayed starts, or what looks like in their 20s a failure to launch, when really it's just like the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. It's just 10 years too late and $20 billion over budget, and then finally something happens. Because the average age of marriage is going up in the United States. The average age of having its first child in the United States is going up. And like we talked about with South Korea, like that isn't sustainable. So either, the regime will continue to do what it's doing as it has been on the southern border and just let them flood on in, or we're just going to have to deal with the social wide consequences of people going absolutely insane or so pharmaceutically addled to function, like every BPD chick on TikTok. Here are the 20 medications I take to act like a normal person.
Right.
It's going to be an insane time period to be in, because whatever millennial insanity comes as they hit middle age and realize that perpetual idea of youth, that I'm going to be hot forever or die young and leave a pretty corpse, when they realize that their corpse won't be so pretty, when they realize that I do get old, my back hurts, the grays are getting harder and harder to die out, that all it's going to do is be passed down. I mean, Zoomers have already inherited it. Gen A or whatever comes out of that will inherit it, and it's going to be a disaster. Like, we really are going to see, I think, the permified version of Taylor Lorenz and others being just exemplified as the ideal youth for people. And it's going to leave Zoomers and Gen Alpha just struggling to be like, well, how do we avoid turning into those people when I turn 39 or 45 or 50 or whatever? And I think that's what we're going to see to some extent. And then I'll wrap this thought up here by saying I think that's also why you do see every other week or so, and our friend Indian Bronson has pointed this out, where every week or so there's a new female personality on TikTok talking about why feminism's a scam, or why like the environment, I mean, like that's a once a week thing. One, it's a great grift if you're like even a 6 or a 5, like it's a great grift.
I know some of them are like that.
Right. But I mean, at the same time, it's also, I think, a subconscious realization for women and also men. I think this is why the New York Times has been very quick to point out weird Catholic Twitter, along with all other religious sects. I'm not pointing out the Catholics exclusively. Everyone's got one. Ortho Twitter is just as insane. It is as insane, along with Catholic Twitter in those regards. I think that we're just going to see a lot of that subconscious realization that, things are not the way that they should be, that weird instinctual, subconscious being like, hey man, stuff's fucked. But they're going to play on to what is the social mores and what's socially acceptable at the time.
It's really getting crazy out there. But I think that, it is.
I just want the world to stop killing itself.
Oh man. I think that it's true, but then, I mean, was it not the historical norm, despite what certain Hyperborean racist feminists would say? Isn't it historically the norm that men, they were kind of always in that position of having to marry younger? Because as a man, you by the time you're in your 30s, you're pretty much like trying to establish and find who you are. And I know, like I mentioned this, like people freaked out on that one Camille Paglia quote, where she said that women are, men have to become. And so, historically, I think that women are almost geared towards men who are at least slightly older than them, because like that's the thing, right? So the UnHerd article I was mentioning was the Mary Harrington one. It was not the one we're going to cover, but she was talking about how, like, is there an alternative for older women who aren't like these sex objects? And if that's not like ideal, because it seems that male attractiveness largely is static and changes across and stays across demographics of men, where men want someone basically in their early 20s, like their late teens, early 20s to mid 20s. Like that's
it's why like Leonardo DiCaprio's girlfriends have never gone over the age of 25.
Yeah. Because essentially like and there's, of course, like you'd be an idiot not to realize that there's a biological reason for that. I mean, that's when women are in their peak fertility. But yes, there are men who are attracted to, and there's an increasing number of men who are attracted to older women. But again, and even Mary Harrington speculates, is this basically just driven, like a lot of different destructive socio-sexual trends? Is this not largely a product of pornography? I mean, there are older women who do maintain their beauty, obviously, but I think it's different than looking at a peak fertility 20-year-old woman. or 20 something year old woman. I think that, it's different. The sort of attractiveness, the eroticism is much different. But now that we have this sort of pornification of the older woman, then is that not setting people up for women, especially setting them up for false expectations?
Well,
Because, like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, men largely want someone who is younger than them, right? Like,
Well,
yeah.
but that comes with an interesting consequence too, because I think, because what is the average age of like a like when do they what's the age when porn actresses start being pushed into the MILF category? It's like
30 to 35.
30. Thank you. Of course you
Yeah.
would.
Well, it's because I was researching an article. It's pure
or it's like with that little clip of Ed Dutton saying he had to research into certain anime categories to understand.
Oh yeah, he was talking about yaoi or something like that.
Yeah. But okay, so 30 to 35, so not middle aged, not, I don't even know what the definition would be. I mean, as soon as you're a mother, I guess, right? But I think that also comes that, I mean, like these are, and I mean, they always make them look younger in a lot do. And
they do.
I haven't watched porn over a year and a half now, so I don't really know. But
okay, again, research purposes, right? This says nothing about me.
Of course.
There is the category.
Gio is a good boy. Don't you dare say anything in chat in the comments.
Exactly. There is the porn MILF of professional porn sites.
Mm-hmm.
And like big budget, like, the big companies, right?
Yeah.
They make them look younger.
The ones all owned by MindGeek or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. The ones all owned by MindGeek, the ones that have Pornhub distribution. They're like the ones, I mean, a lot of them are aging now, like, Lisa Ann, Corey Chase, whatever, but they make them look younger. So it's kind of like they have like the classic like 80s porn bimbo look, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of them, but older. Then you have gonzo pornography, which is largely amateur, which is basically just ordinary older women having sex on camera. That's a huge market, by the way. That's big. But so there's that difference, right? So is it that you want ordinary women having sex that are ordinary, that are like women you'd find in real life, that would be like, single women you'd find at a Skin Ranch bar, or whatever you call them, Wrinkle Ranch type, where all the older singles hang out. There's actually one that is like down the street from me. So there's that. And then there's like that professional stylized pornographic, kind of like Brandy Love. Brandy Love definitely is like the big studio, purposefully like, makeup and plastic surgery, I mean, look at her face. That's
been worked on.
That's a product of a very talented surgeon's hand. So, not so talented actually, but like, well, and there's something about that. Yeah. That type of look that I think is uniquely American as well. But, so but it's in a way, like we've talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the like OnlyFans that came out of like gonzo pornography.
Yeah.
That came out of peer-to-peer sharing of pornography. That sort of look of the girl next door or the woman next door, that has its own, I think, psychosomatizing problems in terms of now the ordinary woman becomes pornified.
Well,
right?
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Because everyone wants the girl next door, or everyone wants what they think is attainable.
Yeah.
Right. And
have you seen some of these OnlyFans women on Twitter?
I mean, the ones that I see that come our way through quote tweets and shit. Yeah, I don't go looking for it, but I mean, some of them are very average looking women, and 4s or 5s or whatever. But I mean, I would imagine that's what somebody wants. Is a personified or personalized average girl that looks attainable, that can, for $5 a month, whisper sweet nothings into your ear in a personalized vid. Like, I get that. And I think that that's another problem that does come from, I mean, like we said, like the millennial problem has it with, sleeping around or enjoying it to the degree that we've talked about before. And it's just like, well, the evolution of that, of course, is now like you mentioned, every woman is now turned into a pornographic object.
Right.
Uh, and again, it goes back to that cycle. So, women are just objects now, and then women complain about being objects, and then men will point to and be like, oh, women most affected. But then they're so hijacked by that process of literally like rewiring your brain's neurochemistry to keep objectifying and commodifying even average looking women, because that's what you want, is the attainable girl next door.
But that's what I mean, the attainable girl next door. Like I know that, like, it's hard to say. It's hard to say, because okay, yes, it is true that when it comes to women, obviously, like, there isn't like as much of an exploitation if, say, like, it's a couple that film themselves having sex and they put it on X Hamster or whatever, obviously, right? But still, it is kind of worrying that there is a huge market for that there is like a level of not eroticism, but pornification of like the average, like, ordinary, not to say like the average ordinary woman is like a whole class of its own and like the porn star is like this higher thing. I'm saying like the opposite. I'm saying that the eroticism you get with an average ordinary woman is obviously different than, like, getting yourself off on pornography. Like, there's an obvious difference there.
Well, I mean, isn't that the evolution, though? Because, I mean, what it used to be, big names and big personalities were like the real, like Dick Huma meme that I love that's out there. He would know the names of these actresses, right? Where, that's right. Raven Riley or whatever. And the most famous one being Mia Khalifa, I think, just because she's turned herself into such a lol cow.
Yeah.
God, I can't get over the fact that she and I went to the same college.
Whoa! That's great.
She has a degree in history, so do I. I just want to make some, but
that's fascinating. Actually,
it's depressing.
Oh man!
But it went from the star, right? Like, and these personalities, these pornographic personalities and film and porn stars doing things to get the attention to themselves. Like her being Lebanese or whatever, and trying to do.
Yeah. Then she had the controversy where she pretended to be a.
Yeah, like she had the hijab on and all that stuff. But now it's transformed. Like the millennial thing was the personalities that would do these things that you could identify because they did your niche interest that gets you off. And now it's now incredibly personalized and personified into the girl next door. It's not just, oh, you look like, XYZ porn star. Mm-hmm. Now it's, does she have an OnlyFans? Because, and I think that's a very interesting evolution of the millennial social experiment. Not to say that it's just a millennial phenomenon. I mean, pornography has been around forever. I mean, but it's transitioned itself into such a way where you come of age in this new time, this new era, this new epoch. You're being sold this narrative about yourself. You have the internet. You went from AOL and Usenet chat rooms to the advent of social media. And it's, again, I think we're the last people that can, are the last generation of people that can really remember a pre-2007 world without smartphones or Facebook or whatever. And now it's that social experiment has evolved from millennial to Zoomer. Well, now it's not just the porn star, it's the girl next door you can buy your picture. And I think that evolution, I mean, I don't really recall the phrase quarter life crisis. Like if I were to do a Google Ngram,
such millennial cope.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, here's the thing. If I were to do some sort of Google popularity Ngram or whatever of the term or its thing, I know it's a modern phenomenon. I know that that's not something that teenagers in the night, no way that baby boomers were talking about, oh, I'm 20 and I don't feel, no, because at 20 you were married and had children, or the average age of marriage for them was 22, and you were college educated and you were pumping out kids, or you served in Korea and you came back.
I had this talk with my old man, but go ahead. Yeah.
But and so it's just this quarter life crisis thing, you called it a cope, and I think that I don't know if it's so much as a cope as a reaction to the fact that things are on such a accelerationist track, socially speaking. I mean, to some extent, yes, it's cope. Like, oh, I'm not put together. I'm having this crisis. And it's like, well, yeah, but we're also engaged in this like social structure where like capital, our political institutions has fundamentally destroyed all traditional notions of the family. And it was funny. Someone shared me a clip the other day of this like very, I want to say it was a black and white film clip of like Jerry Falwell, OG Jerry Falwell, talking about how teenagers are being raised to like kids are being raised to be adults, and they look back and they never realized they had their childhoods and they were looking for someone to tell them what's right and what's wrong, and it requires us, this evangelist movement of his to tell them what is right and what's wrong. And I'm like, I'm not, I don't fall in line within that form of Protestant Christianity, but I can definitely understand and relate to it a lot because, well, fuck, he's right, And I mean, today, right, children are being raised on things like TikTok, or like I've just said before, parents give their kids the iPad screen and say, fuck it, go nuts while you're
even like,
it's nuts.
Even like the quote unquote based version of it, like, I'm not going to say who it is but someone who is part of the quote unquote anime racists or whatever, said that like, oh, I browsed 4chan when I was like 12, 13 years old. I'm like, what? Like, why? Like, this is terrible. Like,
Oh, I mean, I did while I was in middle school. But I mean,
but you know what I mean? Like, I think
it wasn't good for me either. I was permanently scarred in 6th grade when someone told me, where to find this stuff. But I can't. I mean, it has to be worse because I think 4chan's only gotten worse. So,
well, yeah, I mean, it is infiltrated by glowies, but I think that yeah,
like it wasn't back then, but
like it was. Well, I mean, it was, but it wasn't. Yeah, like definitely. There is like a sort of like psychic goring that it's again. I learned that from Nobody TM. There is a psychic goring going on with younger people, and it's not pretty, and it's not good. And the fact that like even like the readily available nature of pornography, I know that like it's sort of like a perennial issue, especially like on the right wing, but still it's true.
A perennial issue for a reason.
For a reason, exactly. Like, you can't like. The problem I feel is that, the sort of liberal worldview pictures everything as neutral, as you are a rationalist, you are a rational, objective observer, and that you are not affected by the media that you consume. Because obviously the millennial example, again, getting back to the snarky, what does academic agent call it? Something snark.
Millennial snark, or just like
millennial snark, but cynical snark or something. He has a word for it.
Cynical. Yeah, I think it's cynical snark. I mean, or like how he calls himself the eternal Daria, right? Just sort of that snarky millennial, like, oh,
the eternal Daria, exactly.
Yeah, the eternal Daria.
Yeah,
the smuggy aspect of it, like our smuggies or whatever on Reddit. Like it's just definitely there at all times.
Yeah. Sure. No, but the the point being is that the example that millennials grew up with is the violence in video games thing.
Right? Yeah,
and it's true that materially it probably is not an issue, but in fact, my problem is that probably it's you could only hope that video games would inspire actual violence, because that is a sign of a spiritual weakness that video games somatize rather than
well, they did, because what is it now with I saw that. So this last week I was taking care of my friend's mom and dog while she was in the hospital for cancer surgery, which meant I had a lot of mainstream news on all the time, and I would listen to it while I was reading or cleaning up around the house or whatever. And there were these advertisements about like online and mobile banking, but it gamified, like talking about kids and their chores and how to build credit and how to invest and things like that.
Oh god,
I think it was like Chime or whatever, and it was this really disgusting way of gamifying incentives and how to do it on your phone for whatever, to give them money or allowance or whatever. And I'm like, you guys are literally just gamifying the traditional ways of, you know, an allowance or getting
Yeah.
paid for chores or whatever, like the traditional middle class thing to help kids learn how to handle money or whatever. And now it's been turned into a video game basically on your smartphone.
But
And
see, that's like the rationalist utilitarian brain. But yeah, go ahead.
but amazing, but it's
Yeah.
what you said though. It somatizes them. It doesn't, you know,
Yeah.
it's the spiritual weakness aspect of it
Right.
because now it really just sort of proved that Noval Harari thing that people really are that hackable.
Yeah, exactly. That's my
Yeah.
yeah. Me and Forrest Robinson were talking about this in my content minded with him. Not to say that if you're a
Was that the
gamer,
one you did with Wheelwright as well?
yeah, we talked a little bit with Wheelwright and
Okay,
Michael
okay.
Thomas was sharing as well, but this is the one after that one.
Okay, okay. I haven't gotten to that one yet.
Yeah, not to say that if you're a gamer, you're spiritually weak. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the mass sort of like inculcation of gaming as a form of escapism rather than something that you find value in. That's not what I'm talking about. So if you're a gamer, do not get offended. Although I'm kind of more critical about gaming than I let on for obvious reasons. I'll get ratioed. No, but I think that what you said, like, okay, here's the difference.
Okay.
There's that rationalist gamified nature of quote unquote biohacking of like in teaching a child, really you're just teaching a child to be an autist, really, when you think about it, because you're teaching them the sort of mechanics of why they should do this advantageous thing, and you're sort of finding ways to appeal to like this very like not to say that the brain is like disconnected, but like, you know, the colloquial term left brain type of thinking of like treating life as a video game, treating your career as a video game. And this is very much this Silicon Valley approach of like taking complex problems and breaking them down in their constituted parts and like using it and gamifying it the way that we would play a video game. The obvious behavioralist model of the 21st century is that, oh, why don't we just take children and make them treat life as a video game, right? That's obviously good. The problem with that is that you're not teaching them the spirit of why we do these things. Why is it good to clean your room, bucko? Why is it good to read old literature in school, right? The classics. Why is it good? Because, you know, you can say to someone, you could say to like a bit older kid, you could say, well, you know, our civilization was predicated on people having a certain liberal arts education, not just, and again, even liberal arts, even like, it's like, oh, well, it teaches you critical thinking skills, right? But that still is a deviation of the true purpose of why we educate children in the humanities, the liberal arts.
Yeah, the
Because it's
classical
a
education.
it's a civilization building thing, right? So I hate this crap about why'd you get a liberal arts degree? Oh, it taught me critical thinking skills. No, dummy, it's not just about critical thinking skills. It's about other things that are foundational to a civilization, especially, I hate to say it, you know, a European civilization as a whole, right? Like, not in every society has that. In Africa, you will find a more ritualized version of that with their own canon and their own, you know, the point being is that you are instantiating children with a pedagogy that is advantageous to them as a person and them as a society as a whole. When you just gamify it, you're not really teaching them the spirit, the essence, the purpose of why certain things are good in terms of knowledge production. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
this whole Silicon Valley, again, it goes back to this like girl boss, largely non-white version of like turnkey technocracy. It's like that sort of bio-Leninist model can only work if you have enough people that can figure out how you got to that turnkey civilization to begin with. And this is what people like, you know, evil Noah Harari, evil Noah Harari. People like Yuval Noah Harari. I could never put evil Noah Harari can never understand this. Okay, you can't just biohack. Humanity is not a machine. That's the problem.
Yeah.
We have a series of interconnected biological abstract machines that connect together in a variety of ways, but in terms of like the human self, it's like treating us like a machine will not produce optimal outcomes. We're not an AI algorithm. You have to understand the intent and the essence and the purpose behind that. I hate to say it. But also it goes back to the woman thing, because when you're trying to force women into this role of this abstracted, calculated, rational entity, that's not,
Well, no, and you're right
Yeah.
though, because like this is a conversation, that, not to borrow from my real life, but like this is a conversation I've had with my girlfriend, because like she did buy in, and this is her story. Like she did buy into the whole women in STEM thing, lean in girl bossing thing, and so she got a degree in computer science, and she's like, well, this is what I'm going to be. And then she said that the moment that it clicked for her is when they had these other women come in to talk about women in STEM, and all of them were project managers. None of them were coders. And she was like, okay, well, something's clearly wrong here. But she got her degree and graduated, and she realizes like, oh, I'm not meant to do these things unless I were to sacrifice my womanhood in order to do it. And I think that that's something that's interesting to keep in mind, because like, yeah, it will affect them. And that's why I think that a lot of this does have to be pharmaceutically altered. Do
you really want to turn women into autistic men?
No, you don't.
No, I mean some guys do.
Some men do.
Listen, folks. We all love our autist women. I know quite a few. They're great, right? But they're different from autistic guys, though.
Yeah, I mean, there's not everyone gets to be a pistachio with a little Aspie girl, you know.
Yeah,
like it's if
we
you're
love our Aspie girls, folks. We love them.
Well, we love our gals that wear the "Please Be Patient, I Have Autism" hats, but like they're not. It's not the norm, and it shouldn't be. But I mean, that's what we're turning a lot of women into, I think, in that degree of like girl bossing in STEM, but also the nature of trying, like, that's the other thing with biohacking, right? It's just like you see that meme about, oh, you know, like your whole personality is built on an algorithm, and for some people that's very true.
Yeah, they're very instrumentalized in there.
Like there's a reason why the NPC meme exists, like not just for shit libs, but I mean for regular ordinary people that'll like watch a
they're right-wing people like that too, by the way. They're
that great the great oh fuck, the movie scene in the bar
from
Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting,
and he's like, yeah, you watch some celeb, you probably just
then you eventually go to Ebola. Yeah, starting bad, maybe a bit of Ebola,
a little bit of E. Michael Jones. Yeah, you haven't had an original right-wing thought. Or
are you going to talk about hypergamy now? Do you have an original thought in your head? Yeah, exactly.
But to some, okay, but like in an educational, like that's what I love that tweet, because it's just great for gatekeeping.
It's like the Paul cell. It's like
or
the most
to call out Paul cells, theory cells, and like newbies, right? Like it's a great way to humble newbies. But but here's the thing though, with like right-wing Twitter or like right-wing online dissidents or whatever, there's a canon that has been more or less, it's not like there's no Council of Nicaea to establish what's canonical, but there is a sort of agreed upon canon amongst everybody of who you should be reading, and whether that's Bronze Age mindset, whether that's Rene Guénon, whether that's Revolt Against the Modern World, like all of it's out there. And and what's kind of neat about this like loose network of communities, at least for us, like we can kind of point out who's the suit or
I mean, I should be harder on the newbies. I know like a lot of newbies, they'll DM me, and a lot of them do have like great insight, but maybe I should tell them to fuck off more. No, I'm kidding. I could never.
Are you taking Zero HP Lovecraft's advice to be a likable asshole?
Maybe I should be. I should. But no, I could never do that to a newbie, because like then that would just turn them off, because I fear that I shouldn't say anyone. Listen, he's a good friend of mine. Okay, he's a great friend of mine. But I'd fear if a newbie were to DM Zero HP Lovecraft instead of Geo. I wonder if they'd have a different experience.
I mean, it depends. Like TR Hudson messaged Zero HP about help with his book, and I mean that book's
Zero HP is about it. I'm trying to think of like an actual asshole in the right wing Twitter. I mean, they're a dime a dozen. Who would be?
They're a dime a dozen.
Who would be like a big account that's most likely to hate on a newbie? I wonder. Oh, I can't think of one. I just said ZHP, but probably not. I mean, he's helped a lot of newbies.
Yeah. But I wouldn't be the same way.
Could you imagine trying to DM Carlsbad with advice as a newbie?
I would hope that you would go to somebody else before him.
He's a great friend of mine.
Not to insult him. I just think that like if that I don't know how well that interaction would go.
It wouldn't go very well. DM Geo instead.
Yeah,
You have
but
to
I mean,
work your way up to like establishing who you're going to interact with in terms of like the right wing Twitter.
before you get like slapdashed, blocked, or made fun of in a screenshot or whatever.
Yeah, I wonder. I wonder if I'd be setting them up for a false expectation because they're like, "Oh, I can't believe it! Like, Gio was so nice to me, and he's an oldest of old hat." But then as soon as I started messaging Carlsbad, it's like, I don't know. He started screen capping me.
Well, I don't. Not everyone's going to react the same way because, like, I don't consider myself a large account or someone with a large following or audience. But I mean, if someone with like a YouTube channel or a Twitter account of like 50 followers, and then like they message me and they're like, "Well, hey, can I interview you or like have your thoughts on for X, Y, and Z topic?" I did this not too long ago. With a nice gentleman named, and he's not a bad guy by all means. His YouTube account is called Can of Tea, and he wanted me to come on and talk about Ron DeSantis. And I was like, well, I don't really talk about, rank electoral politics, but yeah, I said, why not? Like 112 subscribers or whatever at the time. But I mean, like, he was a nice guy and all that jazz. And I think that is something that has to come part and parcel with also being a likable asshole. Like, you have to be willing to take a chance, I think, on bringing interesting people on. Yeah, right. Yeah. But at the same time, like, I've talked about this before at the US event in February in my speech, but I've also talked about it on the channel. Like, you also have to conduct some triage about, well, who's here to talk shit or who's here to want to learn something and pick up on it. And I think that little Goodwill Hunting meme, and also in general with like the online right wing, is that there is sort of, we recognize that hierarchy is important, for God's sake. So, I mean, at least we can tell, whoa, before you go to this guy, go here, go there.
I think like, but then when you're already established, I think it's easier to like get into bigger, like, for example, the 2 streams I did with AA, I think like, no, I'm not going to say so, like, I'll piss some people off, but AA really put out the red carpet for me. And, so it is nice to get, like, to get the star treatment, because he didn't have to do that. He could treat me like a lot of other smaller people he's interacting with. No, I love AA, man. I'm ride or die when it comes to AA. He's been so nice to me, but it is funny when you're on stream. It's like, oh, let's hear what you has to say about this. So like, and so I'm like, hey, so we're gonna do the wrestling stream. We're gonna have like John D on. He's like, no, just you and me. I go, just me and AA. I am AA, strong as soldier. That was, we went for 3 hours too.
I know.
Yeah.
I know F all about professional wrestling, but that stream and AA's constant use of those terms and individuals, boy, oh boy, do I know a lot now. It reminds me of having to know a lot about college football when I was in university. My debate was really big into it. People, I was like, well, this isn't really my cup of tea, but yeah, I guess I need to learn the lingo.
You're on the watering hole,
yeah, and I've told AA in private, like, a lot of us wouldn't be here for not the work that he's already put into, and I'm eternally thankful for that. But
no, but my point being is that I've been on smaller channels, and it is a nice that too can become a nice ego boost. I think Cup of tea or can of tea?
Can of tea.
Can of tea, yeah. He messaged me. He didn't get back to me, but he wanted me on his show. I mean, I said I'll do it. I'm a bit busy right now. I have a few other shows lined up. I have one with Greenwood, who used to be a filmmaker. So I have a bunch of stuff. I think I'm gonna work something out with different people. By the way, I'm gonna push it to the front though, because it's by early mid-September. I did almost 3 hours with Ryag Nationalist on his new book. So fascinating, theory-driven discussion. I think it will be different from a lot of other discussions Ryag has had. So keep your eyes peeled on that one. But no, yeah. So it is a nice little ego boost. A younger channel, they really appreciate what you've done for them. And later on, hopefully, when they become a bigger account or a bigger channel, that they remember that you helped them along the way. I think that's the way I look at it. But yes, gatekeeping is always an issue because you do have people that, like, let's face it, they do smaller accounts that are very antisocial that sort of are ruining it for people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's obviously, but there's no harm in helping out the little guy. I mean, people, we're not here if not for being helped by bigger people. I was helped by all the original Frog Twitter people, including BAP. So when I came out with that big art essay, that was like a book almost, or well, the bodily profanations one. I remember BAP, he shouted me out. He didn't have to do that. Me, because I was in war with a certain person at the time, but no, but yeah, but I got to talk to BAP recently on Twitter Space. That was pretty nice. I got to ask him about the art right, so that was pretty cool. But anyways, moving on about women. We're gotta punish them a bit more. I gotta tease them, slap them. No, I'm kidding. Women love to be teased. Okay, I think that's why they hang around right-wing misogynists on Twitter. That's probably why it is. They love being teased, folks. What do you say? But playfully, though, because some accounts, they go a bit too far. Listen, I'm too wholesome chungus to totally hate women. I can't do it. There's some, you gotta, as a man, here's my advice to younger men, okay? But don't take my advice. Take Prudentialist advice. He's actually been in relationships. No, but it's as a man,
I got a comment the other day. Actually, this is a few weeks old, but someone had asked me on stream about advice for relationships, and I gave my take on it. And I got the comments later. It's just like, what is it with the Prudentialist and Dave the Distributist having the worst fucking takes on relationships? And I was just thinking to myself, I wanted to do the no bitches meme in reply, but like, I was just like, I don't know, maybe because I've been around the block a few times, had my heart broken a couple of times to know what works and what doesn't.
Why? Why did they think you two give out bad advice though?
I think because we're like Christian, more traditionally minded individuals.
Oh, you're not going to give them the med gold increase the fuck rate.
Well, I'm more like our friend Mog the Urbanite, Enoch Powell. I would like to increase that rate, but in a non-blasphemous way, preferably in a marriage bed.
Yeah.
We are encouraged to love our wives. So I mean, why not? So
right.
The number should go up, but please be married.
Yeah. But my advice would be that as a man, there is something, to cultivating the capacity to actually have a conversation with women and to not let your pretensions or feelings get in the way. Because I think that, despite what people may say, and especially in our spheres, I think that, women do offer a sort of an insight, but you have to take it with a grain of salt, obviously, because the insight you're going to get from a woman is not the same insight as you're going to get from a man, obviously. But I think that, there is something affirming about having an ability to, even if it's just about trivialities, right? Like to hold a conversation with women. That's what I would say. If that's just me being, Norwoody wholesome chungus, I mean, it is what it is. But I think, but then you can't let it get to you though. I think that, when it comes especially to relationship advice, you do have to like take what women say with a grain of salt, because ultimately they will project their own like wants and desires and fantasies into it. So
I mean, it kind of brings us though to the UnHerd thing, because people do project their fantasies and ideas on it, especially if you are the co-host of a podcast called Feminine Chaos. So anyway, so this is called The Curse of Miserable Older White Women. Subtitle.
You put it up on screen?
I sure can. Let me go do that, because I was gonna just read it from my phone, but that would be so much better. UnHerd older white women, because I don't have UnHerd as like one of mine. The Curse of Miserable older white women. So yeah, let me go share screen. And boy, oh boy, are we in for a treat? Because right at the beginning, our boy Billy Pratt gets a lovely shout out. And I, for like you, Gio, I also thought that the article was super long. No, that's just the comments section.
That's just the comment section, yeah.
So here we go. There is a corner of the internet that is obsessed with depressed middle-aged women, or specifically is fixated on a 4-year study which suggested that 41% of Americans who use antidepressants are white, female, and over 45. The obsession had nothing to do with the concern for these women. The viral tweeter Bad Billy Pratt at Killed the Party. There's our boy.
Which was in relation to Casey Anthony, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been following him for as long as I have.
Yeah, and I mean, Oren McIntyre had a great interview with him. Kind of talks about that too. So by all means, you should be following Billy, by the way. His book is fantastic.
He's one of my oldest friends on right-wing Twitter, by the way. So
good. Yeah. In March, he posted a graph tracking which demographics have used antidepressants for at least 5 years. Circled white women 45 plus and captioned "Welcome to Hell."
He always does that just to promote his book.
I love it. I love it. Welcome to hell.
Welcome to hell.
Welcome to hell.
Yeah.
The miserable old white woman emerges from the same blend of old school misogyny and ageist momism that brought us to the wine mom and then the Karen in the summer of 2020. In theory, Karen was a white woman who called the police on black people who were simply minding their own business. In practice, the term started getting used, and indeed is still used, in reference to any woman over the age of 25 who was spoken up in any context.
I must say, though, I think that the right wing is better about saying... I only notice like leftoids saying Karen because, like, let's face it, Karen is like a white woman slur.
Well, yeah,
but we hate white women too. So as you'll see in this.
Apparently we really hate white women. But I mean, it really, just maybe Hillary Clinton at this point. But I will go play devil's advocate in defense of the Karen. To defend the Karen, I would say that, like, really, we call anybody a Karen who is pro-social. We see this especially on the left when it comes to middle-aged white women who usually are middle class that actually give a shit about the morals or standards of the society.
Right.
I will defend those Karens. I will defend my MAGA Karen moms.
The MAGA MILFs.
Sure, if we want to use that term.
MAGA moms. There you go.
We will defend the MAGA moms for as long as they shall live.
Laura Ingraham. That may or may not have done coke in the 80s. So yeah,
only raises questions what Ann Coulter was up to besides her
She was pretty good back in the Ann Coulter.
Strange television career.
Does she have a boyfriend still, or is she married?
I have no idea. I just remember Ann Coulter for her anti-Trump positions while she was much more fervent on the wall, and then she did that weird. She was in Sharknado 2, right? At that one point.
Oh wow, she was. That's right. Yeah. I know her. I know her niece. I could ask her. She was on Follow the Rules a lot.
Oh, there you go. There you go. But anti-maskers also got labeled Karens too, so we can't win unless we stay silent. So who has it in for these women? A significant number of the Twitter accounts.
This is my favorite paragraph.
A significant number of the Twitter accounts piling hate on middle-aged women seem to be controlled by young men who give off incel vibes.
Oh my God, this is a serious writer.
Ding, 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 ding. There's the word. They are also angry at young women for rejecting them and their mothers for not sending their favorite meal down to them that evening in their proverbial Like,
I'm in my basement right now.
Oh, God bless. Yeah.
This is amazing, eh? Listen. I need to get into my Dodge Charger. I need to go all the way to Toronto. Never mind. No, I'm not. No, not going to talk about war brides or anything. Just don't worry.
Is the writer in Canada?
She's in Toronto.
Oh, well, then, yeah. I mean, that.
Listen, that's not a threat. I'm not No, listen. I'm not saying anything. I'm just a joke. But listen, I mean, if I met her in real life, I wouldn't be mean to her. I'd probably try to maybe say not all incels. So there you go. I'd have a nice conversation with her before she'd call the police. So can you imagine I see her on Young and Bloor, like, hey,
no, in real life.
I wrote about you wrote about my friend Billy. You want to have a conversation?
We're not talking about
it. She'd have the pepper spray. The Karens don't have guns in Canada. That's probably, so.
Are you guys allowed pepper spray?
No, actually, no. In Toronto, pepper spray is illegal, actually.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. I know, eh?
You're,
And it's
you're
getting worse. So
oh
it's
man.
yeah.
What is clear is that these women are an avatar for the complaints that span or defy the ideological spectrum. The miserable older white woman inspires an intense, if difficult,
White women
difficult to
are
pin
kicked
down.
out of so many places, but yet it's everyone else's fault.
Yeah, it's everyone's fault.
Yeah.
Pinned down political fury. Both progressives and the right seem to agree that liberal white women on antidepressants will be the end of our civilization. She's got a link here somewhere. I wonder it's to a tweet. It's to a tweet.
Oh, what is it? Let's see the
Yeah,
tweet.
it goes to. Oh, let me go
Hope he's
hide
not
my.
banned.
No. He's not banned. So hold on. We're gonna stop sharing. And we're gonna share this one real quick because why not? This is the tweet that she has on here from Luke Pryor, the high priest of B Cash, liberal white women on antidepressants, and it's a 4-like tweet from June 5th, 2020.
Why?
You know what? Screw it. We're retweeting this guy.
Yeah, might as well give him some.
Might as well. There you go. You were featured in an article, man, and you are now featured on this show, and you got retweeted.
Or
so
just
enjoy.
the beginning of the next one. Look, you know what's funny is that the readership of UnHerd is like solidly against Bovie here.
Oh, followed by a 2CB. Sweet.
Nice. Like the readership of UnHerd is solidly against the writer. What's her name? Bovie, her first name. That like his tweet isn't even being ratioed. If it was linked to an article in like Jezebel or Salon or Huffington Post, like his account would be banned by now. But like because like everyone just like universally hated this article, like he's not even ratioed. There's no quote tweets. There's no replies.
It was a 4-like tweet when we found it, but this is what she has to go for. But you're getting a retweet just because we support friends here who get mentioned by very strange articles.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me go.
I wonder if when she was writing this article, I wonder if she had something there about Billy. I wonder.
I was about to say, I wonder if she has something for Billy out. Maybe they've talked.
No, but I mean, like, because every time, I hate to say it, a lot of these like 2010s feminist writers, when they write these articles, let's just say that there's something going on there. There's something deeper. There's some kind of like
Dare you say projection on subconscious or latent attraction?
No, with like, why do you think all of these like girl boss, racially ambiguous grad students, why they date, why they write articles about dating right-wing men?
White men, yeah.
Right-wing white men, yeah.
Well, and I mean, it's kind of funny where it's just, or even like the meme about like the quirked up white boy.
Yeah.
Like where it gets, I think the Zoomers had a fun time talking about that with the latest Batman film with Robert Pattinson and whoever. I didn't watch the film. I haven't seen it. I don't know who casts alongside him, but they were talking about like quirked up white boy with the racially ambiguous GF or whatever. Just an interesting dynamic that goes on.
Oh, yeah.
But the stereotype allows a range of people to channel a variety of frustrations. She's the 53% of white women who supposedly, but not actually, voted for Donald Trump in 2016. But also the tear-strewn pussy hat wearer at the Women's March protesting the election's outcome.
Very interesting, though. It is they're a diverse bunch when it comes to like the MAGA mom versus the Women's March. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the MAGA moms are far more diverse than the hat wearers.
Yeah,
that's for sure. For the left, the privileged ladies wrangling a prescription for her non-problems can be blamed on all of society's woes: racism, these are her woes, mind you. Yeah. Racism, imperialism, the housing shortage, the cost of living, climate change, and perhaps even monkeypox.
I blame white women for that one. I don't know.
I don't know. I think I think white women are safe from the monkeypox one.
Yeah.
Not this time, white women. You're not getting blamed for that one. Yeah. Her antidepressant usage can be categorized as yet another indulgence she engages while other people suffer.
White first world problem type.
Yeah. For first world problems, but now it's more explicitly just like white women in this genre.
Those articles about the fatigue of the black woman in America.
About why they're so tired.
Yeah, the tired. Yeah, yeah. So, I guess white women the
There,
SSRIs make them that
there's
tired.
a great frog Twitter post about that where it was like they're tired all the time because like they live in a society that requires like a standard deviation on the bell curve for them to function
Oh
in.
God! Oh my God! Was it Steve Saylor that said
No,
that?
it wasn't. It was some anime racist, but I mean,
Probably, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
Steve Saylor's a little more polite in his academic racism about it.
Yeah.
Not to even say that it is, but anyways, the left produced caricature lives in a large suburban house with a rich husband that resents her perfect life. Excess red wine, antidepressants, free time, and money has truly done wonders to boomer white women.
Oh boy.
This is a women. I love how it's women. This is a women. This is a woman whose problem is that she has it too good. If she had to deal with the same adversity as everyone else, this would build character and she'd stop the whinging.
Well, that's kind of true.
Probably.
Yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves here. What's that thing that Charles Dickens once wrote? Telescopic sympathy, you know?
Oh yeah.
Definitely some true. Oh, but here we go. Here's the right wing problem. For the right, the miserable older white woman is the opposition. Democratic Party supporters are self-hating, college-educated white women. Yeah. Basically, if you live in an apartment in LA and own 4 cats, a massive sex toy, and consume a lot of antidepressants, you are a Democratic Party. Where's the lie? You know,
that tweet by BAP about like first like now women in the 2010s have to like have pussy destroying vibrators. Then he goes, in the future, women can only get off if they're being trampled by wild animals. Such a great tweet. Such a perennial BAP tweet.
And she is getting her comeuppance for decades of liberalism.
Getting that nice comeuppance. Oh, that's a Chris Chan reference, by the way.
He's been trending more and more on Twitter lately. It's concerning.
Yeah, she didn't actually, whatever. Christine didn't actually escape something. CWC's in custody still. So
and anyway. That case is sealed by by Chris Chan's attorney. So I mean, it's not like we're ever gonna know unless we were living in the area and got the magic jury summons. But let's see. She foolishly bought into the feminist myth that women can have brains and should have high-powered careers. And look at her now, all alone. But this is dripping. Does she have a boyfriend?
I'll find out. I could be her boyfriend.
Can you save her, Gio?
I could probably save her.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, what did I send? Because I sent you something about this earlier. Yeah. Where is it? She's never been married. Oh well, married to someone of a certain ethnic group. But anyways, I don't know if she has anybody.
Oh, she is married, or
I don't know. I just know that she isn't in group married.
Okay. Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, you can find out for us, Gio. But but this is just dripping with that sort of smuggy, just trying to describe your opponent's position, but also like just a little bit of a confessional.
I think though there is like, okay, I noticed in reply to the cold healing tweets that have the TikTok women, the girl bosses that are basically like corporate daycare. Yeah. I know that the response by certain people that are like contrarian brain is that like the right wing on Twitter basically does want them to like fail and like prove that their girl boss hedonism is a lie. But I think that like it is true what she's saying a little bit. We all want these people to fail. But at the same time, I think that living in this sort of like cocooned like corporate boyfriend, like again, that's the term that Davis Sereni came up many years ago. The corporate boyfriend, where like the corporation, the job fulfills like the roles and the milestones of having like an actual partner. I think like these things are just genuinely bad and probably not sustainable for women in particular. But at the same time, there is that Schadenfreude of like, you're like a bitter old lady, like cat lady, and that you rode the carousel to get ahead in your job when you're in your 20s. And now that, but at the same time, it's true. I mean, the fate of these women doesn't look very well and good, you know, but anyways, go ahead. So yeah, she is getting her comeuppance for decades of liberalism, alone with her cats, pining for life. she could have had if she'd settled down when she turning heads. If she'd stayed a virgin until marrying Ward Cleaver at 22. What is that reference to?
It's a reference to Leave It to Beaver.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Played by Hugh Beaumont, if I recall correctly.
I think so. Yeah.
Because as soon as I looked over, it's just I opened and I was like, oh, Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah.
I think they had Malcolm McDowell play it in a film back in the 90s.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
She
wouldn't be popping pills of any kind. She's sad because this is not written very well.
Yeah.
She's sad because she's alone, but don't feel sorry for her. It's a misery of her own making. Well, kind of.
Well, to some degree, we can say yes, and I think that's so.
To a degree, we can say yes. It's still bad. I still feel bad for them, but
but I mean, it's like what we were talking about earlier. Like, it would be easy to look at this article and be like, women most affected, right?
Yeah,
like we just said earlier, but it doesn't. It's a great way for us to, as men, to
feel
look
better
away from
about
our own
ourselves. Yeah,
to feel better about ourselves, like we just said, Schadenfreude.
Because you could easily say that, like, oh, Gio, because he's a fucking fat ass incel loser. That's why he doesn't have a girlfriend at 30. Like, like it's easy to like turn that around and be like,
oh yeah, it's so easy to push the mirror back up to the face of others, right?
Yeah, to say the incel chud is like alone and desperate, like to like put up that Paul Cell meme of like, I have no job, I have no I have no GF, I have no friends. Society is failing. Civilization is ending. It's like the Paul Cell. Like it's easy to,
it's easy for them to be like, I have no GF, I have no like 6-figure job right out the bat. Like my Spangler was right. We are in the autumn of our civilization or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not Chad Thundercock. Yeah. Yeah.
Basically.
But that's what I mean. It's easy to like point fun at like these type of women. I do feel like, but that's the tragedy of it, because a lot of these higher educated women, they probably could have been something in terms of like, they probably could have brought up more like higher IQ stock, if you know what I mean. Like they could have, but
well, it's like Spanville had pointed out with the cities, they are IQ shredders for that very purpose.
Yeah. Toronto's like the best example of like women that defer like getting married and having kids to pursue a career or some other like affectation. Like, this is why I think, like, this is what Astro said. He's like, it's easier probably to stratify and like to have kids with an art hoe than it is to have one with a corporate girl boss, because the art hoe is like, first of all, she's probably poorer than the girl boss.
Maybe this is the long game, the dime square, getting the art hose together with the right. It's just like, it's probably easier to turn these into your.
This is why I have to go to New York. I have to befriend Annika Cheyenne. Yeah. One of her younger, hotter fans probably is like, Gio looks pretty good actually. So Gio knows way more about art history than I do. So probably. That's my plan. So
there you go. There's your hope.
Yeah, no, but the corporate girl boss, there's no incentive for her at a certain age to settle down with a man and have children, unless she like really wants it for a variety of reasons. The art hoe, you could probably convince more easily.
Well, and this is why I find sometimes like the high class, high power relationships in media that do have working moms in like high positions of power, it feels like they never highlight the home life, or they never highlight. This is why I always find the television show Madam Secretary with Tay Leone when it was on the air to be so hilarious, because like her husband would teach philosophy at some Ivy League or whatever while she was like girl bossing around the globe, which I always felt like this is just like Hillary Clinton fan fiction. But like, he'd be like taking care of the kids and quoting St. Thomas Aquinas. And it's just like, none of this is fucking real. Right? Let's just wrap this up and nip it in the bud and just admit now, this is clearly fantasy. This is clearly fiction. The writers, but I mean, again, here we go with critics from the right. They also have it down for miserable white women who have settled down, but have either failed to age into traditionalist matrons or remained chipper 20-somethings. Pratt of Welcome to Hell more recently made the rounds of introducing Twitter's cynical masses to Peach Mom, a comic about the angst of apparently a well-off stay-at-home mom, albeit with side hustles.
You use the worst example of the worst. most
so
gutter
bad.
example of the like mom that has a career, and you're extrapolating that to every right winger when it comes to women who have children in a marriage that still have a corporate job or whatever.
Well, what's worse is that, okay, like the thing about
My
Peach
God.
Mom is that it's the boomer humor of wife bad, but it's
Reverse.
misandry.
Yeah,
It's boomer.
exactly.
It's the boomer humor take on relationships and marriage, but from a misandrist woman's perspective of like, oh, my husband, she's got her side. That's the thing about Peach Mom is the whole. If you don't know what the Peach Mom is it's a series of web comics, as the article describes, about this stay-at-home, well-to-do mom with some side hustles. But the whole Peach Mom thing is, oh, how I view this this Peach.
She hates her
Oh,
husband. She hates her kid.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the whole thing is, she looks at the last peach on the countertop and says, "Oh, I will save it for my kids. They love peaches." And she hates her husband because the husband ate the last peach. And like it's
I hate to say it, but fathers do that all the time, especially if you have a son. There's
yeah.
like that. Me and my old man were always like that. Like my mom, you try to like bargain for her affection, and it wouldn't be either a peach or some other like, oh, I was saving that for your son, and it's like dads just do that. That's
Oh yeah,
and when
dads and sons will do that. Like
and it's
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 bad.
so aggravating. But when you have a son, you get to do it to your son. So
Yeah,
that's
the cycle continues. Like
cycle continues.
I
Yeah.
got home yesterday from taking care of my friend, and there was like a bag of like some leftover garlic bread, and I just started munching on that with no
Oh.
regard. And then somebody was just like, we were saving that for the leftovers with the chicken and rice that was in the fridge, and I was like, I didn't know that existed. I just wanted to munch on the garlic because it was. So I mean, like, yes, it's there, but like, I don't
Yeah.
think to the degree that like she's just putting the most insignificant. And again, I think this is another concept of modern relationships, is like yesterday the distributist was saying, like, if you are going to be a husband, if you are going to be a father, it is your job not to sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
But
By
what
the
is
way,
that?
that was a great stream yesterday, man.
Oh, it
I'm
was
glad I tuned in
one
for
of my
that one.
all-time favorites of
Yeah.
his. Just evergreen with the distributist and his takes. But like the thing though is that, like, I guess that does leave women to sweat the small stuff, and in this instance she takes this innocuous male thing of just, oh, peach, I will eat peach,
But that is
and
very that like
and
women do
and
that
pour
content
out her
all the time.
entire hatred of her husband.
Yeah.
I mean, she went to go defend herself I think it was on Twitter. She went to go defend herself, but like, it's just
Have you seen photos of her, by the way?
no, I haven't, and I kind
Oh
of don't
no.
want to.
Yeah.
Does it meet? Oh, hold on. We're just gonna do. We're just gonna look it up.
She looks like, to tell you the truth, she does look like the average like American mom, like not, but yeah, Peach Mom is like the worst example because like, okay, you can't take this like woman who's pouring scorn on her husband and child and saying that all of the right wing even resents women in general. I guess
Yeah.
that's like there's this one
Well,
journalist.
she looks exactly what I
Yeah.
expect, and of course,
She's not
well,
that great, but she's not that bad
no. And
either. Like,
what's worse is, who is the first person's video that pops up about? I googled Peach Mom IRL to get like a photo, and the first video that comes up is Thought Slime. I hate Google.
I forgot to say this at the beginning. Thought Slime is probably the worst bread. Like, I know this is saying a lot.
Oh boy, we're
in the world of Ouch.
we're invoking some.
I
feel like if
cannot
you
stand
mention
him.
them, they will come.
Yeah, I don't want to even say it, but he did that hit piece on Jonathan Pett. Like Dave, he really did a video where he just destroyed Thought Slime. Like,
oh yeah, he did that 2-parter with the quartering and Thought Slime, and it was
they're
just
both sides of the same.
about nostalgia, and it was so good.
Yeah.
People give Dave a lot of shit. The distributors, they give him a lot of shit for focusing on BreadTube, but like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't know how vacuous and inane and depressed and horrible these people are. And these are the people that, like, let's face it, governments prop up.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's glow in the dark money back behind them.
I mean, there's definitely glow in the dark money besides, Philosophy Tube and the whole thing that came out earlier this year. I mean, when Hillary Clinton is going to interview ContraPoints, guys,
Come on. Yeah.
you know, like,
Yeah.
but it shows you that this is what the regime props up: depressed, lonely, vacuous people that aren't doing anything with themselves and will sit there and collect a check and be miserable. And the only way that they can find meaning in themselves is if they shave their head and put on lipstick and say, "Do I look pretty?" And let's talk about Peach Mom. That tells you how bad things
Is
are.
Not Slim non-binary now?
I don't.
I think so. Yeah, they said.
Again, there's no
Yeah.
progressive role model for straight white men in the left.
Yeah, but like, no, I just have a particular disdain for him because he had that like that
That video on Pajot, right?
absolutely
Jonathan Pajot.
disingenuous video on Jonathan Pajot. I thought that was just, but Jonathan Pajot responded to him, which is pretty interesting, actually. Yeah, that was pretty cool. But no, yeah, Dave, he had a good video on Thakkum. So yeah.
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 So
not to invoke the ire of bread too.
Us respecting our colleagues and betters, I think, when we always give endorsements to our friends out there, whether it's Billy Pratt or the distributist, we game recognizes game, I suppose, or at least there are the people and shoulders that we work and stand on sometimes, or at least I do as a smaller account and the smaller personality who's still on the scene, kind of new. But let's see here. The woman behind these evidently autobiographical comments then got widely ridiculed, in part because it is objectively ridiculous to post comics to the internet to bash your spouse. In part because it is objective. Well, at least she acknowledges that. But also because she was a miserable older white woman. I really think it was more of the former than the latter. The latter just kind of be like, oh, you're crapping on your husband and you're well-to-do. Yeah. Odds are you are.
The difference is, I'll tell you, okay, there is a subsection of like older white women in particular, even like older black women, where there is like the humor and the comedy around like bashing your husband, like Lisa Lampanelli or whatever, like that type of comedy. But it's like the usual like, oh, I try to put out, but men are pigs, but yet they're lazy. Like it's that's time immemorial. But Peach Mom goes into like rabid, ghoulish, minute detail about how she hates her schlubby husband and family life. Like that's
and what made it worse is that when she came to his defense, or her own defense, it wasn't for his defense, it was her defense.
Yeah.
The first thing she says is that she loves her husband and that he's a great provider.
But anyone can say that.
Anyone can say that. And it's just like, you're really, I don't believe you. I don't. Because here's the thing is, I mean, and Gio, you more than anyone else, right, that I could talk to would probably you probably can agree to some extent. A lot of artistry, especially when it's like basically autoethnographic stuff like that, all you're doing is just letting your true self come behind the mask and be masked off in your
embellished form of your true self. But you're sort of like, there's always like the danger to ethnographic and autobiographical fictionalization, because then you're sort of like putting on a character. And I think Peach Bomb maybe is putting on a character, obviously. Like, I don't think maybe she does hate her husband. I shouldn't say that. But
but I mean, that's the thing,
she
though.
Probably does love her husband to some extent. I'm not going to say that.
Sure.
Yeah, any woman that allows a man to have her kid, especially in this day and age, like
probably, definitely. Right. But what I meant though it's like it's also the critique about irony, right?
Yeah,
or like Poe's law or whatever. Like eventually, if you all, it's the meme about 4chan, like, oh, if it's a bunch of people acting like retards, eventually people are going to just think that you're retards. And it's just like if you act like all the time that you hate your husband, people are going to assume prima facie that you hate your husband.
But also you're going to inspire that level of hatred in others.
Yeah, and the cycle continues.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how irony becomes sincerity.
Exactly. Why wasn't she grateful that she had a provider husband who also did some housework? Much was made of the fact that apparently he apparently does childcare when she goes out in the evening to teach yoga, as though teaching yoga is an indulgence and not a part-time job. She should be grateful, was the gist.
Yeah, but me going to like on someone else's stream, or me like doing an art show, that's like work, but that's also something that is like you do as a calling. I mean, I don't get why with that, like teaching yoga. Okay, yes, it can be a part-time job, but it's obviously something that you're doing for your own betterment and your own, like, whatever kind of like new age woo you want to attach to like teaching yoga class, do it,
Yeah.
that point is just stupid. I don't. Bovie, what are you doing to us here? Yeah, I think she read a bunch of Billy Pratt's tweets, and she saw like physique posts from
You
him.
just know she was hate scrolling through
Yeah,
Billy's account.
yeah. Probably listened to a few streams of his.
Yeah, probably.
Probably got some ideas, but no, never mind. Listen, Billy's a sizable later Gen Xer. He is a man's man, but
Indeed, he is.
yes.
But the common ground of why she is demonized is because she represents liberal modernity to people across the political spectrum who object to it. The miserable older white woman is a normie, a Hillary, not Bernie supporter, an awful, affluent white female liberal. That's a great term. I love. Who made awful a thing? Was that Scott Greer?
Scott Greer.
Oh, yeah. Great term. A Twitter search for that very online acronym.
Not even citing. She probably knows who Scott Greer is. Just doesn't want to cite him.
If you found Billy and then you're talking about women, you probably found the rest of us. Let's not get ourselves.
Yeah, it's probably true.
Paints a very similar picture. Her reaction to Kamala is an enthusiastic yas. She posts milquetoast liberal messaging to her Instagram about Black Lives Mattering and trans rights and abortion rights, but in a cringe way.
I said this on the show before, and I said it again, but I hate to say it, but I mean, hopefully you could red pill like a more like go along to get along normie woman. But if you have a woman who's like a diehard pro-choicer, I mean, that's a huge red flag because of like the fact that they don't value like having children, reproduction. That's like in itself like inherently a red flag.
Well, it's like when you came on when the Dobbs decision first leaked.
Oh yeah, that was.
And you had said that is the fundamental political dividing issue. Of the left and the right in America. Is pro-life or pro-choice. Like that political dichotomy, whatever your view on it, that determines everything. That determines the rest of your politics. That determines, and I mean, even our friend Stain Taines had that in a piece of Cars and Women magazine. Like, if you support that thing, I can tell you what your politics is basically on everything else.
Exactly.
And it's true. Like, talking and trying to date someone who's so fundamentally opposed or on you on that position just doesn't really work.
Like, if you have a woman who's like just passively like, I don't know if I want to have kids one day. I mean, kids are a big commitment, but then like, oh God, maybe I'm just projecting my own fantasy. But then in like those intimate moments, he's sort of the issue of the Med Goldian approach to it, where you're hot and heavy, and she starts getting very erotic ideas about certain expressions of sexuality between you two. That's different. But if you have like a diehard like child free, like I hate the idea of having children to save the earth, or I hate the idea of having children because it'll ruin me, or like I'm totally 100% pro-choice, like that's different. That's like not your average like millennial or Zoomer woman who has reservations about having children that you eventually could potentially red pill, or I say cream pie pill one day. But I had to mention it every episode. Gotta mention it, But no, you know what I mean. If you have like a fervent activist pro-choice woman, I listen. I hate to break it. That's probably not going to work out, especially if you want kids one day. So yeah.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, to go back to my more getting around the block kind of times.
Yeah.
Is it great to hate screw somebody that has the opposite politics of you? And are they innately attracted to you because you are what they anathematize and hate?
You're like
so
a
much?
barbarian.
You are the barbarian that they want to try and conquer and change, and they're just someone that you really hate that you could easily get into bed with. Don't get me wrong. That's great for purposefully getting your rocks off, but
having a stable relationship with someone,
it does not work. It does not work.
Even just like how to raise your children. Like, I mean, this is basic stuff. Like, like I have a very specific thing. Okay, I have to do this one thing that I promised my mother. I as an Italian, I cannot deviate from this. I have to get married. As my mother, she will die a happy woman if I get married in a Catholic church. that's non-negotiable. Okay, like that's, and so if a woman is like passively like, yeah, I don't care, whatever, but if she's like fervent in another faith, or if she's like a fervent, like, okay, another faith I could probably tolerate, but if she's like a fervent, like fedora tipping materialist atheist, it's like that's not going to work. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So, but this is like basic shit that, like, unfortunately, for some stupid reason, people, maybe boomers, maybe mass, pop culture, told millennials that those things don't matter. Only love and attraction matters when it comes to marrying someone.
Well,
That,
and it goes back
yeah,
to what we talked about at the beginning, but it also in other streams, that it's just like, and Morkoth was really good to reply about the whole millennial thing, where he was just talking about like, this is a uniquely millennial concept about self-identification as a generation, because there is the social formula, the political formula, the social narrative that you are coming of age in this time of a new epoch and of a new millennia, and love is love, and you can get what you want.
Yeah, the other things don't matter.
Where things don't matter, you can get anything that you want delivered in a day. You can get all the information of the world in your fingertips. You can be anything, right? And clearly, that's bullshit, because you can't. And
even just like your parents, like, what happens if you have kids and like, I'm a Catholic and she's an atheist? How is that going to work out?
Well, yeah, and that's why you see, I think, the much more extreme side of Twitter, or the more trad side of Twitter, when it comes to religion. Like they'll hamper on and say things like mixed faith relationships are worse off than like mixed race relationships, or whatever, because I mean, those are your first principles, right? Like, how do you make that work with a materialist atheist who thinks that, if God real, why bad things happen? Like
a Catholic and Orthodox, that's like, in my opinion, no big problem. You could probably work a way around that, but like even like a Christian and like, I don't know, is there much Christian Hindu relationships? I don't think there are, but maybe in India there's actually certain parts of India like Goa that do have quite a bit of Christians. But
I mean, I think who do they claim? I think a lot of like, a lot of the Indian or Oriental Orthodox Church, I think they claim that they got started by St. Thomas, but I don't know too much about them, but I do know that there is a lot of cross between over there.
But there's that. So like, the nothing else matters besides this notion of like creating your identity in romantic love, right? In terms of marriage, the number 2 plague of millennials, and this has burned me before in the past, and it really kind of is deceivious when you think about it, is the typical millennial dating strategy of, we have to be friends first and we grow into a relationship. That does not work. Okay, women hate that, because women either think that you're lying to them, and you are, your own emotions are lying to you, or making you lie to them. But also, it never works out that way, because women will not view you as a sexual threat anymore, or sexual intrigue, by saying that you're friends first. They view you rather as a gay best friend, really.
Well, yeah, because what happens in relation, or like when you like somebody and they don't, what does a woman say? I see you as a friend. They immediately neuter you as anything of particular masculine or sexual intrigue.
100%.
And so like
I've been there.
I can hear Gio's. I can just hear it. I don't even need to be in the same room. I can hear it. But like, but it's true. And so like, when people say, "Oh, we should start out as friends first," it's it cripples any real chance of anything meaningful.
Yeah, you gotta be straight up too. Like, you can't, because that's a sign that you're a real man. You're not like gonna be like this deceivious, like, "Oh, well, I guess if we're friends first, then maybe I'll suggest it." No, suggest it now.
Yeah.
Maybe you still be friends if she rejects you, but then, well, maybe not. But like, you know what I mean? Like,
you're right. And I mean, this is the thing, is just that is sort of the millennial thing that comes with reprogramming or trying to shake off. Cause like, even, myself and my girlfriend were just like, she's like, well, we should be straightforward and honest, because like we are told all the time to like, take things in a sort of like diplomatic or softer suggestion, when it's like, well, no, just say what you fucking want or feel, like, for men and women, just be direct with each other, because if not, you fall into these like spaces weird in which you can create distance. and that's
Yeah.
never good if you want something to last. And
But it's always difficult because you have to balance it out with like you don't want to like
come on way too strong either.
you don't want to come on way too strong, but also you don't like you just have to calmly like express how you feel about someone and how you think that you have a chance together. But also when you confirm that like she's also interested in you, then you don't want to like basically go
You don't want to,
headlong.
yeah, you don't want to spill all the spaghetti out of your pockets
Yeah,
at
like at
once.
once. You don't want to like totally emotionally envelop yourself to the point where you're willing to like burn so bright that you burn out fast. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah, especially
there's
in a
that thing. You go ahead.
no, yes, you're absolutely right. In the same way that you don't want to, um, you know, say all that stuff way too soon to where it sounds more like an idealized infatuation
Exactly.
and not a
100%.
serious
Yeah.
commitment.
Yeah. I mean, I worry about that myself. Like if any woman, has interest, then I'll just like
Yeah.
totally, I, what was that Sam Hyde bit? Never mind, it's too graphic,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
no, I totally, end up destroying my I've had friends that have done that, like
Oh yeah. I mean, it's
yeah.
common, and it's especially, and again, the reason why I think it's even so worse today is because that millennial thing about distance and taking it on too slow or just becoming friends, where it creates a space of emotional and intimate distance between
Yeah,
potential partners, is
right.
that has only been cranked up to 11. And the
Yeah.
water is boiling for Gen Z and everyone else that comes after them, because now you've created artificial distance through a paywall for
Oh
women.
god, yeah.
And to me, I
Yeah.
don't even want to know how psychologically wrecked like 19-year-old Gen Z brain is. I don't want to think about it because that sounds terrifying.
Oh god, yeah.
Um,
But another thing too is that it complicates like which is something like I have yet to figure out. Like what is the difference between a friendship between a man and woman in a relationship proper? What is that difference really?
I
Well, yeah, what's your opinion? Like what do
oh
you think?
man. I mean, a lot of people off the bat would immediately say, "Well, are you two sleeping
Sex,
together?"
right? Obviously, but like
They always go straight to sex. But I
yeah,
mean,
but
it
I mean
also has
apart let's
to,
bracket the sex thing. Let's
yeah.
bracket the
I
sex.
mean, that's one category or one maybe
Yeah.
tick on the box, maybe. But like, the difference would be, say, how much intimate knowledge they may have of you,
Mhm.
right? Because
Mhm.
like, if
Mhm.
you're just friends, and they blab everything, and it also has to be the perceptions. Like, do you see her? Do you acknowledge each other as sexual attraction? Does she treat you like a gay best friend? I
Mhm.
mean,
Mhm. Mhm.
it,
Yeah, that's true.
it just varies, I suppose. In the
Probably
same way,
level of commitment maybe, like, that's
well, level
probably
of commitment too. Like, did she
yeah.
skip out on a date to be with you, or does she go on dates while you two are still friends and things like that? Does
Yeah.
her boyfriend get awkward when you bring up the male friend, or does your girlfriend get awkward when you bring up the female friend? That's another big thing that you see a lot
Yeah.
of,
Yeah, it's true.
because exclusivity is being such, the phrase, the idea of relationships being exclusively monogamous has been under attack for so long
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
friendships can. Oh man, that makes me sound like a really big trad extremist. I don't mean to come off that way, but like, the fact that monogamous relationships have been so attacked and their exclusivity of monogamy has been attacked and withered down and eroded so much by our modern world, that there is a lot of reaction to a point where the idea of men and women not having platonic relationships is such a widely accepted idea that, yeah, they can't have one. Not to, and I
Mhm.
think that you can. I think that they have to be older, or they have to be distinctly not interested in you. Like, there's no way I would consider my friend in the hospital to be someone of a potential interest, but she's a very
Right.
dear friend to me. Why? Because she's 61, for God's sakes. Like, I think that comes
Yeah,
into,
it's like me and Catherine, it's like I consider her like a sister almost in a
yeah,
way.
it's not.
Yeah.
And again, it has to
She
be that
considers me
level
like a brother almost,
of
right?
perception, right? That
Yeah.
level of perception. Um,
Yeah.
but and coming back to this article, for Boovie, right? What's her last name? Or
Bovie, yeah,
oh
yeah.
yeah, Bovie. It all comes back to Hillary Clinton.
Oh my
Um,
god. Oh.
we talk about the hauntology of Marx, it's the hauntology of Hillary
Of
Clinton.
Hillary
in this
Clinton, yeah,
article.
there's a specter haunting America.
Yeah,
Literally.
there's specter of a literal demon, and her name is Hillary Clinton.
Oh,
Per her haters, the privileged complainer, Hillary is the embodiment of the dorky, stodgy mom who does not know how to relax.
see,
Unlike
this is not the perception the right wing has of Hillary Clinton.
no, me calling her a demon is probably the more
Yeah,
accurate
the perception is like the demonic, calculating Machiavellian Hillary Clinton, not the stodgy,
that any
not
time
like
that you
the
have
grad
any
student Hillary.
Yeah,
You
not
know?
grad student wholesome. You could maybe be with, her in bed Hillary
Yeah.
Clinton from the 1970s or whatever. More like
Yeah.
the if I have information pertaining to her arrest, I will be killed in such a manner that makes it look like a, that I heroed myself.
Man.
But much like you, who know, even Hillary's supporters faulted her during the 2016 U.S. president. No, it's not because she was an entitled white woman. That's not why I didn't vote for her in 2016.
It's because she was the embodiment of the establishment.
Yeah,
Like,
picked the most unlike. Even when she was in the U.S. Senate, even when she was first lady, she did not have. Why? Because she was calculating. She was a big part of pushing the agenda. She became the establishment. You were Obama's fall guy. You laughed when, and especially when the idea of foreign intervention was being debated.
Yeah.
Clips about her saying, "We came, we saw, he died," played over and over with her weird demonic cackling laugh. Just like she's just no. It's not because she's an older white woman. It's because she's the fucking embodiment of evil out of Washington D.C.
She really is a creature of the Leviathan. More,
yes.
No, but people don't remember 90s Hillary. Like, people don't remember that, like, even back then, she was, like, seen as more unlikable than, like, Nancy Reagan or, like, who is Bush's wife?
Well,
Not
Barbara's
Laura
the old...
Barbara.
Barbara
Yeah,
Bush,
yeah. Herbert
Bush
Walker.
won. Bush won.
Yeah. Like,
Barbara Bush.
People, like, okay, people, the whole, like, LGBT Twitter thing where they have to ritualistically cancel Nancy Reagan, like, that's only like in part a fiction of like the media and activists, in terms of like Nancy Reagan being like this like out of touch to the heartland America. Nancy Reagan was like the reliable
to heartland
nation's
America in the
grandmother.
1980s. I was about to say Nancy Reagan was like a Protestant Virgin Mary to those people. I mean,
exactly. Like, she was like the woman who can, like, talk into the ear of Ronnie, and, like, she was like the sober second thought of Ronald Reagan. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
she was like the grandmother of the Midwest America that voted for Reagan. Like, by the time Hillary Clinton was not seen, she was seen as like the guy that, like, the woman that was pulling the strings for her macho playboy husband.
Yeah, and 90s. I mean, and again, and it goes back. This isn't. Dare I say this? But also, a lot of Hillary Clinton's image problems does also have to go back to things like Whitewater and her husband's philandering. Like your sins do not affect just you; they do affect everyone else around you. Not to say that absolves Hillary Clinton of her own fucking evils, but plays a role.
No, but the fact that, like, her like office was so close to Bill's was unprecedented in the White House, if I recall. Like, usually the first lady's office is kind of like the first lady does like social initiatives, like Nancy Reagan, like, okay, right or wrong.
Whether it's just say no, whether it was what Hillary's was about kids getting to read more.
But that was a front, though. That was a front for her other political activities.
She had ambition of her own, and I don't blame her. I mean,
Michelle Obama tortured school kids with their menu.
With their menus in play. What was Laura Bush's initiative?
Was it
trying to remember? I don't recall. I think it was about education.
She did it. Oh, No Child Left Behind. Yeah.
She played the social side of No Child Left Behind from her husband's initiatives.
It was that, and I believe she did the George Bush thing around euthanasia with the woman.
Oh, yes.
Terry Schiavo. Yeah. Yes. I believe Laura Bush had something to do with that. Tipper Gore did Tipper Gore did, as much as, like, you have these old like aging rock stars like Dee Snider talking about the maggots or whatever. You know who really oppressed them was Tipper Gore. That was her big initiative during the Clinton years with like the record, the packaging, the parental warnings. Like that was her.
And video game stuff too.
And video game stuff too. Yeah, it was after Columbine. That's was the big.
Oh yeah, after 1999 for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Was Clinton
but,
still around 99?
Yes.
Yeah.
The election was 2000. That
that
came at the end of his second term.
The funny business election.
Yes,
yeah.
The funny business in Florida.
Yeah. Little Yeb, you know. Yeah, Bush is a.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. Thank God for Comrade Stump, eh? Jeb Bush is a mess. Jeb Bush is a waste. Yeah. Jeb Bush is a big fat mistake. Remember that video? Yeah. I felt sorry for Jeb Bush.
Feels weird to be nostalgic for 6 years ago.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But here, Bovey mentions the Finnish prime minister who could attest.
Oh God,
everyone's
Martin.
favorite cat girl partying Finnish prime minister who.
I don't really like her that much.
I don't either, but you know, it's by the nature.
Finland should be run by Bleep Sama, not by her. No, God, oh God.
By the nature of her, being a woman, being whose nation is joining NATO, by the way.
Yeah.
I think it speaks to the degree of what people have the Western liberal conception of what a head of state should be. Like, here's a woman who is like being a part of a major geopolitical situation that could escalate into the Third World War by making human rights concessions with Turkey to join NATO.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, unmarried, partying, the crocodile tear apologizing, even though she's probably going to do it again. You know, like, it's just, it's very interesting that, you know,
I can't wait for her to meet with Sergei Shoigu. That'd be amazing. What's that meeting gonna look like?
I can't wait. Yeah. And I wonder what will happen though when, like, say Sergei Lavrov has a meeting with her or something like that. Because, you know, like, Vladimir Putin had like the dog to scare the shit out of Angela Merkel.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I wonder
Lavrov
what he'll
went
do.
over,
Something with cats.
Yeah.
The
best part was when Lavrov started talking about World War II, that one particular event, and then like Putin, like now him and like the Knesset are on the outs because of like the special operation. It is funny though, back in the like a year or two ago, where like Lavrov would talk about that one certain event in World War II, and then Putin had to like go to Israel and the Knesset. He's like, listen, guys, listen. You know, Lavrov, he's, you know, the way he is. Like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You know, he had to smooth things over. Like, yeah.
But there is also a cross-ideological consensus that older women have committed the crime of having aged out of hotness. A Reddit theorist suggests, I'm not even...
a Reddit theorist?
Oh my, I will open this up in new tab. Oh my God, it links to our Red Scare pod.
Yes!
Here we go. From r/Red Scare pod. What's wrong with white women on the wrong side of 40? And it just has the very same image of
you just imagine the Dasha voice, like, oh my God, like, you know, older white women, and then
but it links to the demographics of long-term antidepressants, the same thing Billy Pratt's done.
Like, you imagine like Dasha would come like, yeah, so I heard like older white women
so here's
have like antidepressants. Then Anna would be like, yeah, they're all like on antidepressants. Like, it's like,
so the comment she highlights: they're the most protected and coddled class when they're young. When their looks fade, they stop getting preferential treatment, which is hard for most to adjust to. 31 upvotes on the Rare Scare Pod subreddit.
Whoa. It's true though. I mean,
a Reddit theorist,
man. By the way, R.I.P. Gorbachev. Now that we mentioned Russia, I can't believe he's man. What's your opinion on Gorbachev, Prude? They hate him in Russia, by the way. They hate him.
I was about to say, I'm sure that there's a lot of hatred for him. I don't know. I think that Gorbachev in a way, probably had some well-intentioned views, but I don't have
Yeah,
enough to say that I don't know him enough to his biography or his policies to hate him or like
I
him.
gotta
But
wait for the T77 take on it. I gotta
I
wait
mean,
for Ace to stream with him about it. Yeah.
oh, I mean, he already posted a picture of him with Corby.
Yeah, that was crazy when
It was
Gorbachev
so
came here in
fucking
'91.
insane.
It's just can you believe the forces of world history had to collide to where that
For a
one
young
moment
Thomas 777 to be
to meet
photographed with Mikhail
Gorbachev,
Gorbachev and his
yeah,
wife.
and his wife, yeah. Oh, like
Absolutely insane.
wow.
But yeah, I mean, my position is just that I think that with his passing and his repose, that I think that a lot of people are going to, I think, double down on this end of history shit real hard.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
That's what I'm looking. That's what I see to come out of
I've
his
already
death.
seen the think pieces from the geopolitical people about how like this relates to the special well, they don't call it the special operation, but you know what they call it. But
Yeah,
like
yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
they'll. I'm sure. I can't. I wonder what Francis Fukuyama's take was. I kind of want to. I'll
Yeah, you could
scour
probably
through his
dig it.
Twitter
Yeah.
and
Are they gonna give him a
um.
state funeral? They probably have to, eh? They probably have to give him a
I'd
state.
imagine so. I don't
Yeah.
know. We'll see.
And he
Um.
only was like, oh, for right, wrong. He was only what like sorry, last point. He
Yeah.
only was like one of the most important politicians of like the 20th century or even like world history, right? When you think about it. But like
Mhm.
that's for right or wrong, obviously.
Is this the end of the article? It is the end
Yeah.
of the article. Okay. I
Wait,
scrolled through.
go up. You didn't finish the Red Scare one.
Yeah, yeah, the Reddit theorist.
Yeah.
I just read the comment out, which she does the same. When their looks fade, they stop getting preferential treatment, which is hard for them to where you're accustomed to privilege. I wonder where that's also links to. That links to Goodreads. Some accustomed to privilege, so equality feels like oppression. Equality,
Woke
yeah,
coffee table books
yeah,
like White Fragility.
yeah.
Yeah.
In other words, so according to their critics, these women used to have too much, and now they are bitter over a normal existence. To appear old in a sense, to look miserable, society values women for youth, a fleeting quality. Well, yes, by biological nature,
Yeah.
which is why it's so disgusting to see the New York Times have a guest article about the myth of maternal instinct when,
Oh God.
animals in
Yeah.
nature are willing to die for the most, what we would consider silly reasons in order to protect their children. Heaven forbid that doesn't exist in human beings. It's
I believe it was
disgusting.
Marty on Twitter that pointed it out that like a hat like a mother bird to protect her hatchlings will literally sit in a field while a wheat thresher is coming.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Miserable older white women are
one
miserable.
wonders whether miserable older white women are as miserable as all that, or just look that way and are disproportionately prescribed antidepressants because their doctors, fallible humans like the rest of us, interpret their ordinary facial expressions as ones of distress. Is this her really interpret their ordinary facial? Is she
What?
talking about resting bitch face?
Yeah, I think that's probably
Uh,
what she's talking
the
about.
medical establishment has made stupider mistakes. Well, yeah, they're
Yeah,
castrating
thalidomide.
children.
Yo, yeah, that too. Yeah. I mean,
But yeah, thalidomide too.
no,
Here's the
there's
final.
so many medical mishaps you could bring up. My
Oh
God.
God, yeah. Women, particularly housewives, have long been prescribed drugs at a much higher rate than men,
Yeah, they were prescribed meth back in the 50s.
and even earlier treated for hysteria.
Oh, we should bring that. I think that could probably cure the older
There's that
like
Ned Gold take.
yeah. I'll do my part. I'll do my part.
That you should do your part. Treat
Bring
it
back
like
hysteria treatments. And the
um
guy in Victorian England invented the first sex toy.
yeah.
That's not true. Actually, Victorians weren't actually that sexually suppressed as people like to believe. Like, especially like the peasantry people, they were like doing it all the time. Even upper class Victorians, they had like some weirdly accepted taboos, which we would look on with disgust nowadays. But like,
Oh, of course.
read the works of Sir Richard Burton, the erotic writer who is in Victoria, England. Never mind, probably not family friendly.
Put one of those memes out there. Don't research.
Do not research. Yeah, yeah.
So, at a higher, one can look at as a society throwing drugs at women to distract them from their situational misery so that they don't question the situation itself. But one might just as easily see this as a case of men not having access to proper mental health care.
Oh, I have a good point about this, but read on.
or indeed to the drugs that can be used relatively safely to make them less miserable? Are the men who sneer at antidepressant using women just repulsed, or are they also perhaps envious? Do they wish that they could be like the women who face somewhat less stigma for going ahead and making an appointment with their GP? Is the miserable older white woman's crime being miserable, or is it valuing herself enough to do something sensible about it?
What?
And my gut take is, if that were really the case, I mean,
There'd be a therapist on every construction site right now, but why does that not exist?
yeah. Or why is it, right, that that terrible member of parliament that Sargon had pointed out, who laughed at the idea of talking about male suicide, just cackled at it?
Yeah.
And this goes back to what you had said earlier, that thing from Evola, that, women are outwardly emotional and soft, but inside they're the ones that are willing to rip you apart.
Yeah, they have an
Um,
inner cruelty that's unmatched by anything.
and
Yeah.
this is what it is. Are you just, and it's, I read this with smugness, not with concern. I read this as her being like,
Oh
well, are you just
man.
envious of the fact that they can get access to mental health treatments and therapy and yoga and pills? Maybe, but I doubt that, because you would never do the same for the fact that men are, ending their lives at unprecedented rates throughout human history than they are right now.
Yeah. I think it was Schwab Real Human, who is going to be on Content Minded soon, by the way. He had this Twitter space where he talked about how during like times of immense tragedy and war, especially war, how like the mental hospitals are basically empty of both men and women. That
Hmm.
when life is given a supreme purpose. Now, like certain regimes would empty them to put them in strop battalions, but like other than that, I mean, they were empty because it seems that like mental illness more or less disappeared in times of like great civilizational upheaval.
Yeah.
But that whole point, what I wanted to say is that that's very interesting how she projected onto the older white woman or the older like woman this apparatus of psychopharmacological control of like, they're actually the real like woke ones and that we're just drugging them into oblivion somehow, even though they want it.
But then she does the about face where she says, actually, it's pharmacological salvation.
Right. Yeah.
Like
That
we've
men
talked
need.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, men need the pills, men need the therapy, men need this. But okay, every time that that's proposed or suggested, it doesn't get to the root of the fact that men and women are innately different.
Right.
And
Right.
like, so they're like, well, men need access to mental health, men need therapy. Yes, men need assistance in ways that I don't think the structure or the infrastructure for women that is out there could ever take care of male problems.
No, never.
Never,
And
never.
no, but that's my point because it starts at an early age.
Yeah.
So she is inverting, she is projecting into older women what actually happens to younger boys in terms of
Hmm.
like drugging them into oblivion. So their problems are not like addressed, or rather, they're basically like they're just as like passive and calm as the
Yeah.
girls are
Take
in
your legal
school.
speed, Billy, so you can sit down
Yeah.
in the classroom.
But the way she's framing it is she's taking that issue and like
Hmm.
projecting it onto like, but how can you do it? Because don't the older, largely white women want SSRIs, or they think they need it? Like, I mean, I know,
I
like,
mean,
yeah,
and this isn't just a modern like post 20, this isn't like a 2016 2010s phenomenon,
no,
because
no,
that has been memed into our culture. And to how true it is, I don't know, but like, oh, in the early 2000s, like TV shows like what Arrested Development or whatever,
yeah,
even
mhm,
her with her alcohol or her Xanax or whatever, all that stuff gets played all the time, as these sort of like tired, they just want to drink, they just want to dull the pain or whatever. Like, that's been around in the culture for quite some time. Or in previous generations, maybe it would be, and like, again, like with The Graduate, right? Like the older woman, Mrs. Robinson, it's sex that is the therapeutic aspect here, the wanting of
right,
being desired and taking advantage of something to be, sexually desirable again. And to where now it's like, well, they want to not be miserable because they're past that prime. And the question is that, okay, if that's the track that we're going on, and clearly there is something wrong with older white women over 45 that are on antidepressants, because if they weren't, I don't think that they would act the way that they do now. But right now, society, through, of course, a mass amalgamation of capital, pharmaceutical companies, the government, political parties being interested in a way of maintaining control.
Well, they become like the activist class. They become like
that's what they become. And it's funny because if we go back in time to say the British campaign for suffrage or even the American campaign for women's suffrage, what was the classical political graphic about that? That, if they're young and unmarried, they become spinsters and they become suffragettes.
Right.
So it's just, maybe it is to some extent.
Maybe Bap is right that feminism was like an OG femcel movement. He said that, and Stu's like, oh yeah, even feminism was OG femcel movement. That they want
maybe there's some truth to that for sure at the end.
I remember he said that they want younger men to fill their dry pussy. The way he said it though was funny. No, like, okay, obviously, like, the development of feminism is obviously more complex than that, but I think that
of course
there is something to be said about like why is it that, like, even someone said in the comments here, right? Like, when a man marries a younger woman, he's evil. When he wants to have children with a younger woman, he's evil. But when a woman wants, no, sorry, it was in the Mary Harrington article about older women having younger relationships. No, it wasn't Mary Harrington. It was another writer.
Like Mary Harrington just wrote an article about like middle-aged women don't want sex.
Right, yeah, but this was this other one by this other writer who's the opposite of Mary Harrington. Where the top comment was like, a man wanting a younger woman is evil. A man having a family life with a younger woman is doubly evil because that's patriarchal. But like, a woman having a younger man is perfectly acceptable. So it's like, yeah, so it's like, I know it's like one of those stupid like 2010s like, MRA type talking points that it's just like everyone knows by now. But it is kind of like, I think it is kind of like a cope if like a way older man has a way younger woman. But like a man in his 30s dating someone in her like younger 20s, I don't think is like, borderline cheese pizza or whatever. Like that's just naturally what happened throughout human history, I guess.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing, though, is just that naturally here in America and the frontier and going to the West, it was always vast age differences between men and women.
But that's what I mean. When a man is in his 30s, he has more capacity and resources to have a family.
Well, that's yeah. And that's particularly why his wife is like years younger than him.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, it's like
have you seen 30-year-old millennial women, by the way?
Not great, Bob. Not great.
They're not in great shape, Sometimes not even physically.
They're on track to be what we just talked about in that entire article.
Yeah.
Depressing. Yeah.
I mean, some of them. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I mean, if I had a girl that was my age, of course I'd marry her. But like that's. I mean, 30 years old is not that old when it. You know what? Like, yeah. That's
but it also comes to the common refrain these days of like, well, beggars can't be choosers or something. No,
but also experience too. Like that's kind of like, say you have a man who doesn't have the wealth of experience with women, but you have a woman who's had multiple relationships, like serial monogamy. That's kind of like, that is like something you'd have to overcome. That is kind of fucked up. But like,
yeah, because I mean, it's basically you'd run into the same thing that Jonathan Franzen and Catherine D has written about the insecurity of like, are you still desirable compared to everyone else?
Exactly.
But,
yeah.
I mean, I do think that this article, alongside everything else we've talked about, whether it's Peach Mom or just the way that the sexes view each other, or the fact that there is this big social civilizational meta-narrative towards millennials as a generation that is quickly time doesn't stand still. And for a society that has always tried to exempt itself from time and history, you are coming to meet, and I mean, the wall is such a meme term, but like, it doesn't matter. You're gonna be like a fish that hits a dam. and it's gonna not be pretty. And I do think that the pharmacological salvation, the pharmaceutical sacraments that we're going to give to these people in this new secular religion trying to build a world without God, I think that it's going to be terrifying to see what the consequences are, because it won't affect just millennials like we've talked about on here already. It will affect the Zoomers, the Gen Alphas, and whatever comes next. And because it happens here in North America especially, it will be culturally exported to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And you're going to see South Korea's, not just in South Korea, but in other parts of the globe. And I think that that's really depressing and downright horrifying.
And it really goes back, I think, to a good summary point in terms of the North American cultural obsession over adolescence. The eternal adolescent is really like the sticking point of like, it's a time where you're coming of age, where you don't have like real responsibilities, but you have enough adulthood to like have fun things like sex and drugs and alcohol and, you know, relationships. So it's like Europe doesn't really have that, but North America, it seems like that's the backbone of all. Like it came up recently. I had this tweet that was responding to this meme that went viral about teen romance. And you remember, like, I truly believe this is my schizoid conspiracy of the day. I truly believe that all of those posts on R9K and Paul about like that feel when, and they will go into like elaborate details in these green texts, that feel when you'll never have teen romance or teen love. I believe that that was probably a demoralization tactic by glowies. That's my conspiracy theory. But no, I think like I had a lot of like genuine responses about the nature of like the benefits and detriments to having quote unquote teen romance. But that in itself is like, I said that, is it true that it sucks to not have it? I never had that, but yet, or is it really just like a psyop by the culture industry of the whole like obsession over like teen romance? Like the other day I was listening to a song because I was watching this, me and Gifts, we both had the same moment where we were listening to this song. Because like I was listening because I was rewatching this old death match and one of the wrestlers, that was his entrance song. You know the song Teenage Dirtbag?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. Like that's perfect example of like, you know, like millennial teen culture, like or Gen X to millennial, like teen romance, like, you know, like the obsession over that adolescent expression of eroticism. Like I think that probably holds us millennials in North America back more than anything, is that this adolescent worship. I'm an adolescent forever.
Well, yeah, I think that that's true, but I think that it also really has to do by the nature of your community or where you're from, because it's just like, I mean, I had girlfriends in high school and things like that. I can tell you that I had a winter formal when I lived overseas in a castle, which was just like straight out of a fucking movie, right? You know?
Straight out of a Hallmark movie.
Straight out of a Hallmark movie with my very, very, very short girlfriend. And I'm not a very tall guy either. I'm 5'10", but like, it was just it was definitely picturesque and out of a movie, but like, I don't look back at that and being like, oh man, those were the good old days, you know, because that's what it is because it's just like, oh, you have to come to the reality of the fact that like, oh yeah, that was a really nice moment. And I can remember how we danced and how great that she looked. But okay, cool. Like 3 months later, right? Like the relationship ended and you move on with your life. And I think this is the thing though, and this is where I think you have a really good point though, is that, yeah, the culture really does, the media culture market thing really does want you to romanticize that forever, where you know, relationships in this day and age, they'll focus on words like, you make me feel like I'm 17 again. Hell, there was a whole movie about that with Matthew Perry and Zac Efron. I mean, there's this whole idea in the West, and not just the West, but really North America, Canada, the US especially, where the whole media complex is about, well, if I could go back in time, if I could be 17 again, if I could be, because if not, what do you become? You become like, you know, Uncle Rico, or you become like that weird Ben Stiller movie where he's taking his son to college and he feels like his whole life has been a joke because he didn't get to be cool like his friends who had a much better life than he did. And he gets humbled by it because it's like, listen, man, you run a nonprofit and your kid's going to a good school. Why the fuck are you complaining? But I don't know. Like, I also think that those are some of my thoughts, but at the same time, it's like, I turned 27 this year. Like, what the? I haven't lived my whole life yet. I'm not yet nostalgic for being 17 or 18. I actually,
Yeah.
I feel like when I hear that stuff, part of me, it's like the heaven forbid, but I invoke the Simpsons. You know, it's like Milhouse's dad pointing to the race car bed,
I
and
have a
home.
race car bed.
I
It's like I
I
sleep
sleep
in a
in a
big
bed
bed.
with my wife.
Yeah,
You
I sleep in
know,
a big bed with my wife. Oh yeah, I forgot.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
oh, I forgot. You know, like,
What's her
oh,
name, by the way? His ex, Van Houten. Oh, what's her name?
are you referring to the Simpsons?
Yeah, yeah.
I have
Kirk
no
Van
idea.
Houten's
I've
ex.
never watched a single
No,
episode of the Simpsons.
really?
No,
Oh man.
I only know about it through cultural osmosis.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I have
That's
gotten so much
amazing.
hate in so many group chats for it. It's not
I
even
used to be
funny.
such a big fan of The Simpsons back in the day, but now it's like I don't watch the new episodes. I
Yeah.
haven't watched like the. I think I stopped at like season 13 or something. I forget, or season 14. I forget which one. I don't watch The Simpsons anymore. It's terrible. It should die. But no, yeah, no, yeah, it's true. It's true. I think that um but then again, I think nowadays a lot of young men or old men that are getting into their 30s, they really do have no choice but to like delay these life affirming, or rather I should say foundational experiences.
Yeah.
Because I said this in reply to someone on the same tweet, because I got like a huge amount of replies that weren't negative, that were pretty positive. I said, like, the thing is though, if you don't have these foundational experiences when you're in your 20s, like, are you just like this man child forever? And it's like, that's, I think, like, a lot of young men face that. And it's like, but then I don't know the answer to that, because like, to not like totally black pill myself, would say that it shouldn't matter, like the fact that maybe you're at a different place in your life, and that as a man that you have to establish yourself and you have to like be worthy as a man of like self overcoming. But then another part of me, the black pill side of me, says that, well, yeah, you're screwed, you're a wizard, you're wizard Chan. Go to the depth board, so I know that's
I
terrible.
think I think you can't let yourself, and this doesn't apply just to you, Gio, but I think this applies to our listeners
Everyone,
and
yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
The moment that you let yourself being defined by an internet meme is the day I think that you have surrendered, and have
Yeah,
engaged in a
true,
fundamentally defeatist position for yourself.
true.
Because I know plenty of guys out there that, who don't get their act together, and by nature of this like fallen world. And I don't mean that just in a Christian sense. I also mean that in the fact that like the 2020s and the 2010s are pretty fucked in comparison to
Oh
other
yeah.
places.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, by nature of this fallen decade, by nature of this fallen generation, that there are plenty of people that don't get their acts together until much later in life. And that doesn't stop them from being happy. And most of them are very, very relieved and take solace in the fact that they went through such weird social hardships and financial and economic ones by nature of the fact that it got them to where they are. I wouldn't be where
Yeah.
I am today by nature. I wouldn't have started this channel if it weren't for the fact that like I was on dialysis and COVID had happened and I was working from home. I wouldn't be doing what I am today if it weren't for that. Like I thought, well, I've got nothing better to do. Why not give it a shot? So I mean, like I wouldn't let you or the audience don't let a fucking meme define you. Like, yeah, the only meme that you should define yourself is probably Giga Chad. Like, that's what you should strive for. Whatever your idealized
Yeah.
version of Giga Chad is, go be
Yeah.
like that. But I mean, I think that, and I've tweeted at you before, like you're way better than that. So don't fucking do it to yourself
Yeah.
that way.
But that Calvin Klein model, she does have a good face though. She
Oh,
lost
for
100
fuck's
pounds. She'd be pretty good.
sake.
I'd date her. I'd
Jesus.
date her. No, but you're right. Like I think that like I said this before, I honestly wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me like running away from my problems by like using university and my education to run away from my problems.
Yeah.
Like I think like there is, even if it's a bad motive, there still is something there that delivers you into like what you're doing now. Like it's,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? Like it's just, yeah, but it's just whether you're trapped in a cycle that you have to break yourself out of. Like that's, I think, you know what I mean? Like that sort of ability of self overcoming. That's when you become, because like I always said this, okay, like when is it that you consider yourself a man? Is it by,
Hmm.
you have sex? Is that being a man? Or like is it some kind of like other affectation of masculinity, right? Like, or is being a man like the ability to self-overcome? Like, what is it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think like a lot of men our age, younger millennials and Zoomers, especially Zoomers, I don't think they feel like, oh, I'm a real man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, being a real man is not smoking DeNobles and having whiskey and having a, who are subtweeting. But being a man is not like some. You know what that is, by the way? That's like I said, Norwood masculinity. That's like fucking the meme that the Amarnites came up with of like the fucking lumberjack with the beard and like works as a line cook at an expensive burger place and talks about like the Redditified, like, hallmarks of like epic bacon sauce version masculinity. That's not masculinity. That's an affectation.
Well, in the same way
Yeah.
that, like, yeah, I've seen on Telegram and on Twitter people using the phrase microplastic masculinity,
Yeah.
as the new
One.
version of, like, the soy, of just being soyified to all
Yeah.
hell. But I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that we've come up with our own sort of meta memes for that sort of stuff is definitely interesting. That we should probably cover more in depth one day. But
the lumberjack meme.
Yeah, for sure. But on that note, as we come to an end here, Gio, would you like to promote anything for our audience?
Yeah, sure. At the time released tomorrow, I just released my Content Minded number 16 episode with Gifts Ungiven. The full 5 hours. It's so long I had to put in 2 parts on Patreon.
Oh boy.
Yeah, but you get like you almost get 3 hours in public. So almost. I try to do half and half, but more than half actually. So, but the full and uncensored version is on Patreon with my good friend. She's an amazing video artist, Gifts Ungiven. She was supposed to release her new video because we were talking about a new direction for her artwork. She does YouTube video art. We're supposed to we were talking about some concepts and ideas, but I think like it's taking her longer because she's starting to get into the Blender thing. So really involved, and she's setting up her music studio. So so it's taking longer. We were supposed to do a thing where like I release my episode, then she releases her new video. But no, it'll come probably like in a week from now, her new video. So yeah, go to the newest episode, and then I'm gonna release later on in the week the last part of Style Talk number 8, where we cover Fear Factory's album Obsolete. But that's the shortest of the one. Other than that, like I'm doing my giant reviews. I'm almost done Byung-Chul Han's Psychopolitics. I have to release a new episode. I'm actually late on that one. But the last one, though, the middle of the book, it's like 2 hours long. And I also have a little bit of Easter egg rants that I'm probably going to release on YouTube for free as a teaser. This one rant I have of Noam Chomsky, his newest thing, where he's talking about the Russians. And I think I have another rant on something else. Girl bosses, maybe. I don't know. I'll see. So that's my stuff. I'm probably going to release some new articles, and I'm always releasing new artwork. I'm scanning a bunch of my old stuff. And probably by September, I do have a big announcement to do about my artwork. So
all right,
yeah. If I'm not lazy about it, if I find the time. So yeah, that's good. Other than that, next week on Content Minded, I'll probably be releasing either the Manosphere one with Red Hawk and Ryan Stone, or I'm trying to think of the other thing I have. But mid-September, though, early to mid-September, I'm going to release the ROG Nationalist episode. So keep an eye out for that one. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, awesome.
Yeah, that's my shilling. Patreon.com/Productions. Yeah.
There you go. So for the rest of the audience here, if you're still listening to the premiere, thank you so much. This is a pre-recording. We will be live next week on Gio's channel. Obviously, for myself, I wanted to take Labor Day weekend. I'm with my girlfriend this time, so this is pre-recorded.
More important in America than in Canada, though, the Labor Day thing. Yeah.
Oh, of course, and as subversive as it is, but I'm gonna just take it and enjoy my time. But on that regard, I did follow in Gio's footstep. I did also open a buymeacoffee.com. So I did that, buymeacoffee.com/Prudentialist. People have already donated, which is good. I'm very thankful for that. I have a new article for Subscribe Star supporters and Subscribe Star subscribers that do the paywalled stuff on wokeness as foreign policy and deterritorialization at home and abroad.
Whoa.
And we'll be doing some of those every week alongside some other flipping through foreign affairs videos. And on top of that, I will have some stuff coming for you next week. I'm also in the works with Semiagog and our friend Jimmy Thomas on talking about the situation currently in Ukraine and getting some updates on the ground, because he's been doing an excellent series covering the conflict from a logistical and operational side. And then this Sunday,
summary,
yeah, they've been really good. And then this Sunday, I will have a video out for you all talking sort of in Morgoth style of hate reading The Guardian, where we're going to be hate reading an article from the National Interest about solving the military recruitment problem with foreigners joining the U.S. Armed Services. So stay tuned for more. Thank you so much for tuning in to this premiere. If we are monetized, by all means, I hope that you were sneaking super chats along the way. If not, I will have a pinned comment to the Buy Me a Coffee link in the chat description.
Oh, and I have a Buy Me a Coffee too, so in case you don't want the Patreon, so yeah.
Yeah, plenty of ways to support and get access to goodies. So don't you guys worry. And also for patrons, we'll be starting book club up soon. After this coming weekend, we'll be working on Robert Filmer's complete works of Patriarcha, courtesy of Imperium Press. So stay tuned. Nice. Plenty of good stuff coming. But this has been the 8th episode of the Digital Archipelago, and we'll see you all next week. Take care, everybody.
God bless and good.